Yes, pretty good. How's business? Flying, as always.
Right, good morning everyone. We're here with Jeremy Dale, who's a renowned man in golf industry, but actually a very interesting fit. So basically we're just going to have a run through a fit as per normal. Obviously the guys are all watching it, there may be some questions come in, but those are something we'll probably deal with either afterwards or James can feed in at some point, but we'll just go through the fit as per normal.
Great.
So it's been a number of years.
Well, I mean, as you know, I play left-handed, so I brought the left-handed bag in. I was thinking about bringing the right-handed one in so we could do another Happy Gilmore fitting for my right-handed club.
Can still be done.
Can still do that, but anyway, for the normal game, left-handed is the go. I've brought a couple of drivers. One's got a rattler in it, and my main question. I mean, I've had these irons. I mean, the Mizuno irons. I've had them. I think when we first met, like maybe 12 years ago, maybe 15. I don't know, but it was a long time
thereabouts. Yeah.
And I just, they've all got. I mean, I've been practicing, so they're all like that.
Quite a good wear pattern. Yes.
Well, they've all got that.
To those who can't see that, that is a. Ooh, I know that camera angle. Sorry.
I mean, that's
a pretty good wear pattern there.
This is the 5 iron. I don't use that much, and that's the least kind of used one. I was just wondering, are they worn out? I mean, they seem to play fine, but
it's a kind of thing. I mean, anything like this where there's a bit of the chrome worn through, the groove underneath is still there. So in dry conditions, absolutely out there at the moment, absolutely fine. The problem comes because you get that thinning of the chrome, you get a little bit of a rounding on the edge of the groove. It's when grooves only really take effect in terms of creating spin in wedges. Once the loft gets as heavy and the club speed drops, that's when the friction on the face through the grooves and the face tread has an effect. Actually, for these, the club head speed and the loft are what create the friction to get the spin. The grooves get dirt and moisture away from the contact point. So actually, in dry conditions and out of the fairway, these you can have no grooves on an iron and wouldn't make very much difference at all. But if you get a bit of moisture or get a bit of grass between ball and club face, then the edge doesn't cut through to the cover of the ball quite as well, and that's when you then get the flyers. So you get the water kind of sitting on the face a little bit.
Yeah, flyers are quite handy at my age.
That's the main camera there.
So essentially when you get the grooves, when you get the face like that, it essentially, say dry conditions not a problem at all.
Yeah, I like flyers at my age. They make the ball go the right distance.
Hit the distance you remember.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Which was another thing. I mean, it'd be quite interesting to see how far these are flying. But I haven't really noticed that I hit the ball shorter. But these are definitely they're sort of 4-degree spacings, or they were anyway. It'd be interesting to see how they've moved because they are forged. They're 4-degree spacings from a 52 degrees, 56, 60 wedge system. So it's like all the way down to 4 iron, which I feel. It's actually the 4 iron's a different one. I've got that from. I had 2 sets. One was a Cleveland set, which I really liked, but I changed them to the Mizunos. But I kept the 4 iron. I didn't like the clunky look at the back of the 4 iron. But this seems to not go. I mean, I was reckoned on 200 yards with this, and then the 2 iron rescue equivalent that was 220, and then a 3 with maybe 235, something like that.
Okay,
that was. So I always liked 4-degree spacings up to 200 yards, and then 3 out of the club. So after that, driver 3 with 2 iron.
Okay.
Because I reckon I could cover that. But the wedges are quite important. I bought 2 sets of wedges. One's a Cleveland set, and the other's a Titleist set, which I got from you. It'd be interesting to see. I think the question I have is: do these need replacing? Which you've sort of already answered, but. And also, would I be better off starting at 58 and doing 4-degree spacings, or keeping the 60, 56, 52, and then increasing the spacings? Because I feel like there's a big gap between 4 iron and rescue. So I'd like the 4 iron to go a bit further, but I want obviously equal spacings in between.
Yeah, and it might be. I mean, that bit of the bag, that's where some of the heads now with a bit of face tech can maintain ball speed. So that's what I've done in my set. I've got a 4 iron with a little bit of. It's actually one of the PXGs, the T head, so it's still quite a traditional head shape.
Yeah.
But it's got the Maros face. It's got a little bit. It's got the elaster on the infill. It's got a bit of kind of face tech to keep ball speed gaps. So I dropped my 3-iron years back. I had a 2-iron driving iron, 4-iron down, 5-iron down to steel blades. But the 4-iron, I just wanted to make sure it got that bit extra. So it may be that there's some of the technology available to use without having to go big and clunky on the iron head. The only thing possibly at the moment currently where we've always been longer than standard, noticeably longer than standard, not wanting to go head heavy. Mizuno used to make a lighter head. Currently, I think it's just frozen for the moment, but the lighter head options aren't available at the moment for going longer. So the only options available to us for that are tailor-made and ping at the moment. It's something where I think with just the last couple of years, general like Golf Pride have frozen 40 grips because of just they have to focus on the highest demand areas.
Exactly.
All of the Mizunos, whether left or right-handed or wedges, they used to do the lighter head. So it's a 7-gram lighter head to facilitate going a good half an inch longer than standard and not make the balance very head heavy.
I think that's why we went with Mizuno all those years ago,
exactly
and
right.
also the thicker grips, so there's more weight at the end.
A little bit, and just general
would
hand
that be
size as well, comfort. But the thicker grip, it counterbalances a little bit, certainly.
Right.
And that's actually going to be one of the things to look at is whether going, these are currently with the dynamic gold shafts in, so it's whether actually losing a bit of weight, does that help, again, to maintain performance at the top bit of the set, because they're 130 plus gram shaft.
Yep.
So that, again, could also be where at the top end of it's just, as your experience increases over the years, whether just at the top end, whether that's just making them harder to get the very best out of.
Yep, I mean, there was another thing actually when, before we met, I had a set of Titleist Phil Mickelson irons, and they were strong lofts, and I based all my yardages on those, and they were definitely 2 degrees. I mean, I look at them now and go, oh, right, they're much, the 6 looks like a 5 and all.
Yeah.
And I just wondered whether going 2 degrees stronger would be a good idea.
It's
just a preference,
it's a mixture
isn't it, really?
it's a mixture of seeing where the ball flight is,
Yeah.
you say the balance of trajectory, the distance gaps, just kind of taking all of that into consideration, saying, okay, what ultimately on the clubs we used to test, right, what setup gives you optimum flight to give you a representative yardage for that part of the bag, for that kind of mid-iron bit, and then saying, okay, well, if we extrapolate that out, where does that get us to, and are we at, instead of, for example, 10-yard gaps, are we at, most of the time we're now looking at 12 or 13-yard gaps. Partly lofts have got so strong, so a 4-iron's now 20 degrees. That's
that is another thing. I can't see any point in your wedge going 130 yards, to be honest. I mean, a gap wedge that goes that far makes it all half shots if you hit good long drives. So, I mean, there's nonsense, really.
It's
and you've got too much loft in your hand on a tight line. It's not actually desirable. So I don't need that particularly.
And so,
it's just to maintain what I had when I was 35. Now I'm older.
Great. So if you want to grab a knee club, have a loosen up.
I will. Thanks.
So you playing much?
Playing a bit, yes. Trying hard, as always. That will never stop. And constantly changing things in technique. I mean, I'm not, as you know, I'm not really very knowledgeable about clubs, and I see you, a couple of times a decade. But always looking at different stuff for swing and.
Anything technique-wise that you're focusing on at the moment in particular?
Everything. Take away. It's how I set it, keeping the width, not early extending, all that stuff. That's the ball.
Yeah, so the visual alignment-wise, effectively from where the
Where do I need
point's
to be?
set up. And right there's great. Essentially, right down the edge of that mat in front of you, you're aiming. Pretty much the starter's hut. The caddy's hut, starter's hut, just left of the R&A, the museum. That little box there, caddy's hut, is your line to hit at on here.
Ooh.
Generally, anything you're seeing
got here a bit earlier.
pattern, currently anything from a shot pattern that you're seeing that you haven't been seeing in the past, or anything kind of progression in performance?
I'm getting a bit of a pull, actually, on shots, which is unusual for me. And normally high left is my shot normally.
Does that feel like a pull
No,
from a club face point of view or a path point of view?
It feels like the club flips.
Okay.
So I'd be surprised if I was across much.
I 0.4 of a degree into out, so fairly neutral.
Yes, I would be surprised if it was too far away from neutral.
See, so the numbers we're looking at there, that club path number there. So obviously the meaning left-hander, right-hander, reverse, minus for a left-hander is into out, plus is out to in, whereas for a right-hander, plus is into out, minus out to in. But from a certain sort of key numbers, we're looking at angle of attack with an iron, with a mid-iron.
That's
sort of
probably
-4.
not down enough, is it? Probably.
Which club have you got there?
6.
6. Oh, no, that's great. Yep.
Is it? Okay.
4, 4.5 is where we'd want to see it. Just whilst you hit this, I'm just going to make sure the loft line machine is set up for left hand.
See, that carry is 160, is it? That's pretty consistent.
Is that what would you
Well,
play
that
for?
used to be in the old days with the Phil Mickelson set, which is when I was proper, for distance at least. That was 159, I could reckon, on a 7-iron. Carry.
Okay, yep.
So I've lost a club. But it was 2 degrees stronger.
Yeah, and there's a little way if you take that shot in isolation, the smash number 1.36, for what we'd want to see out of a 6-iron, there's another, we're looking for 1.4, ideally. But when you've got, when the action's as neutral as yours is, then there's really, from a strike point of view, efficiency point of view, those delivery positions, there's no reason not to be able to achieve that, which is going to put another 2 or 3 miles an hour on, which is going to put another club on. I think so, yeah. I mean, it's not like, if I go into that, look, marginally heel side, but not enough to be a problem. I can see with those, that one strike-wise, but that's got a 139 efficiency, but a little less club speed. So, I'm from a 6-iron ball flight. It's a pretty neutral flight. It's not, it's sort of maybe upper mid launch angle.
Yes.
Spin's very neutral.
Yeah.
So there's nothing untoward in there. Yes, you could afford to lose a little bit of flight and strengthen it a little bit, whether it's a degree of loft, without compromising what the ball does when it lands. So there are certainly things that are doable. And then some of it's going to be, by dropping a little bit of raw weight, are we able to make it easier to generate speed and timing? Those sort of.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So a bit like we did with your with the original, those that sort of ever heard us talking about the Happy Gilmore driver, when we fit that. So Jeremy does in one of his shots does a run up and hit. That needed a lighter.
They know
shot.
what a Happy Gilmore is.
But that required a lighter shaft because of the way you were coming into the ball than a stock driver swing, and it might just be that now since of similarly to generate the efficiency and the timing. Those are about as heavy as steel gets. So,
okay.
Steel goes from 75 grams up to 138 grams, and they're about 130, just over 130 grams. So they're right up the top end on weight, and they're longer than standard.
They are. Yes.
So there's a strong element to that to say, okay, well, there's a lot of club you're having to swing, and if you get a little bit off on timing, then the efficiency of the contact. Certainly that shot there is probably what you're seeing
that's the
on
shot
course.
I'm not liking at the moment.
Path's 1.5 degrees into out. Base to path is closed 2.8, which are the far right two numbers at the top of the screen. So there,
it's just a flip, isn't it?
if the club gets behind you, essentially what happens is if you get to impact and the club's behind you, then the only way of getting it to the ball is to rotate. So body stalls, head catapults through, and then
you're frightening me.
but then the opposite one to that is that then the next shot make sure it doesn't go right, and you lift the handle up and it goes left.
But my path's pretty neutral, so it's more a club face thing, isn't it? Sort of,
Yeah.
I can see one of the things I don't like in my swing is I get a bit cupped and open here.
Yeah.
So and that means an extension and flip as well. So it's
And a bit of it potentially against the lever side of it. The more weight you've got in the club, the more energy is required to get that moving from the top of the swing down to the ball.
So that was a better swing.
If forces don't equal, then because a human body's not that stable, as you pull from the top, if the club gets behind you, well, the natural way to get the club down is you've got to go up.
Yes,
so
exactly.
it can create that position as well.
No, especially it gets a bit steep and a bit open.
Yeah.
So then that's the only thing
Yeah.
that can be done.
And so, in principle, going a bit lighter, which is no reason why that can't allow you to keep the club out in front of you.
Yeah.
Clear everything through in one go, and then naturally square the face, allowing hands and arms to free up a little bit more. What ball do you play? White round one.
I play a Pro V1X usually,
Right, we'll use that.
or a Strixon Z Star.
Okay, we'll use the Pro VX because they've got the TrackMan metal bits in to measure the spin things. We'll get a few
Sure.
shots with that. Just to,
But I've got and I've got a load of Strixons actually. Let's find out what it is. And does that matter? I mean,
they make a bit of a
Well,
difference
no,
to
no, of
the
course
spin
it-
profile.
Okay.
So in terms of ball speed, if you're at the extreme ends of things, then that can have an effect. So more of a detrimental effect if you're very high club speed and are playing a soft core ball, because the more you overload the core, essentially it takes longer to recover back to round. So it loses aerodynamics. You can lose ball speed playing too soft a ball if you're a high speed player. Z stars, yeah. So they're a kind of they'll be a little lower spin than the Pro V1X. Pro VX is now the kind of the higher spin ball.
and would that be good?
We'll find out as we go through. Yeah,
Oh, 165. I'm getting there.
Yeah. So you see that efficiency.
So 6 arm was
creeping up.
174 in the old
Okay.
days, but
Yeah.
that was maybe 2 degrees stronger.
Well, and so at the moment,
Yeah,
where
I've only
as
just
we're kind
got
of
it.
loosening up, club speed's likely to creep up 3-4 miles an hour. That alone's 5 miles an hour ball speed. That's best part of a club. So
Yeah, that's that one. That's that one. That's annoying, that one.
the path a little more into out on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's the opposite one.
And from a strike point of view, are you seeing a tendency to get a little bit ground and ball, or a little
No.
clean, or not noticeably one or
Not
other?
really.
It's more contact is good. It's just the
It can be a bit
basic
thin, but no, I don't fat it much.
Yeah.
So it can be a bit thin, but
Okay. Just do probably just the one more. That looks a bit of a stronger move through.
yeah.
Yeah, so from a data point of view, that swing in particular, you've got good club speed, ball speed. That smash is good. You could see you cleared through that nice and strong.
Yes.
It's a little bit the kind of flight it's in is a little bit on the weaker side. So it's a slightly shallower angle attack, so slightly higher flight. But I'd like to see the spin down a little bit. If we can get launch and spin down just a little bit more, then it's just a slightly stronger flight. That one there is a little stronger. It's just turned over a bit more. But you can see where 119 ball speed with that flight versus 118 and the higher one, there's half a club in it. So
Let me just close the club face down a bit more. See if that helps. No, I didn't do it.
good ball speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one drew a little bit more. So
Yeah,
that's
it
also
was
brought
an
the spin
okay.
down a little bit.
Oh, right, okay.
But I think, one of the things from a equipment point of view would be, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, the predominant thing, there were kind of two bits in particular that we'd look at as sort of key things to say, okay, well, if the flight's a little bit on the higher side, if the distance seems to be a little bit less than where you'd like it to be, well, one, loft is a straight way of doing it. Reduce loft a bit, the launch and spin come down a little bit. That's automatically, for every degree, you're looking at a few yards. But then also, considering where the setup is, we know it to be, so the dynamic goals, we know it to be a heavy raw weight, then, especially getting longer than standard, if we reduce that weight down, does that just help you to move a little more freely and naturally generate a bit more freedom and speed?
Yeah, okay.
So, but there's nothing untoward in there. If we're taking some of these, like that shot in particular, it's a really neutral shot, very little shot shape, good delivery
No,
lines.
I have been hitting it pretty straight.
So-
It's and obviously with the run on the ball, you don't. I mean, I'm a great one also for taking more club and playing a three-quarter shot as well and running the ball.
Yeah.
And then you don't really notice.
No, it's at the moment it's tougher to pick the carries just because it's like concrete.
Yes,
and
probably better to
got to land
play a
it
low shot
short.
and know that it's going to run
Yeah.
rather than a high shot and wonder whether it will or not. But
So what I'm going to do first up, I think first thing is to see whether if we drop some weight, does that allow a little bit more freedom, a little bit more, does that naturally create a little bit more club speed and then ball speed as a result? as long as we don't lose the control side of it. Because if we can get that one, from a, for want of a better phrase, a future-proofing point of view, over time we're only going to get weaker. So actually, does that just make it easier to maintain that performance and the timing and balance? So that'll be the first thing. So I'll get a similar head that I can get at that length without making it like a sledgehammer. And then we'll look at some lighter shafts. I may have to pop next door, because some of them are just on the wall next door, some of the longer ones. But and we'll see what we can do from a
Awesome.
club setup point of view.
Interesting. Clever stuff, this. Should come more often.
Just looking to select some lighter shafts at longer lengths to start with. So if no one's wondering what I'm doing over there, looking what looks like slightly randomly at the wall, all the shafts are different weights. Any of the 38-inch ones that are next door with the, they should have the mid-size grips on. Or 38 and a half. And the longest ones with the mid-size on would be good. Wrench. Just grab a wrench. Lovely, thank you very much. Right. What I'm going to do is I'll just cross-reference your 6-iron loft and lie, so I can match those, so that we're not going to use loft to start with. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah.
Don't want to cheat the distance.
So you're making that, or you're just checking it?
So just cross-referencing this, and then what we can do is we can make sure that what we're testing with
Is the same loft,
is
yeah,
relevant.
yeah.
So I want to see what the weight does first, and then sort of take each bit in isolation. So okay,
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
what can we do with each part? So let's say quite a traditional loft. This one's at 31. So 31 degrees. So may have moved just a little bit.
What would I have had? I went 4 degrees from 52. I know that's what we kind of went. So it should be an even number at least.
So probably 32.
It should be 32. So it's 31.
Which,
Oh, okay.
and when you think now to where lofts go to now, 32 was always what, 32, 33 is what the 6-irons always were. They were some at 24, which, I mean, that puts it at 4-iron loft. But
yeah, no, I think that's just mad, isn't it?
It's a way that, the problem is,
I just can't see the point.
Once one brand goes lower loft to hit it further, then they all have to follow. And where, with some of the designs they've got...
No, they don't.
Well, from a
no, they don't.
Staying competitive point of view.
They don't.
Put that slightly longer length.
Anyway, we could try and explain it to them, but...
Well, it has got to the point where, for a lot of players now, we're actually struggling to keep ball flight on. So I think in one of the discussions I had with Stuart the other day in the Bay, we were saying where actually where 6-iron, 7-iron lofts have got, one, you get massive gaps down the bottom, which is a problem from a structuring the set point of view. You've got to have 5 wedges.
The higher clubs, yes, exactly. You got
because the pitch wedge is 43 degrees now, which used to be our 9-irons. But then you get the situation where in the top end of the set, well, a 5-iron at 21 degrees, that was what we used to play as a 3-iron. So you can't flight it. So you're actually getting, the more forgiving heads go, they tend to go stronger loft to create distance, put CG at the bottom of the head to make them forgiving to create launch. But it makes it, you gear more spin off by doing that. So the ball just comes out with no spin at all. So it is a bit of an issue at the moment. If you get someone who needs a bit of forgiveness and is a low ball hitter, it's actually quite hard to get the thing airborne without playing lots of hybrids, 7-iron to pitch, gap wedge, or approach wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge, where in essence all you're doing is you're putting together traditionally said if you're doing 5 to pitch, and it would have been 4 to pitch, gap wedge, sandwich, lob wedge. It's just got a different number on the bottom.
It's crazy.
But that's.
Here we go here.
So this one's the current Mizuno, it's the MP223.
Okay.
So
that's a lovely looking. But they do make a lovely looking head, don't they?
Yeah. So
they really do.
Actually, fractionally, that one's fractionally longer than this one. So we'll see how it swings. So shaft weight's down.
The shaft feels a lot lighter.
10
the
grams.
head feels much heavier.
So it is a a little bit heavier in the head. We'll see how
senior swing.
See how that goes.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, a good 10 grams lighter in the shaft.
How interesting. Okay. That should be fairly straight. Yeah.
Okay, and loft is exactly the same. This is a 31 as well.
Okay.
So one of the things we can see straight away from a head construction point of view, so this one's got a bit of face tech on it, is that the spin's down. So whenever you go to the thinner faces, they flex a little bit more, but that tends to take a bit of spin off. So a blade will always spin more than a camera
Yes.
back.
Okay. Of course. Yes. Yeah.
And especially when you go to the, all else being equal, the centre of gravity sits higher, so it tends to strike below, so gears spin up. The more weight you put in the sole, the more forgiving you strike above the CG, it gives the spin off. So that's where a lot of the heads now that are more forgiving, the weight sits, they've got tungsten in the sole and thinner, lighter faces, is to put the centre of gravity down the bottom of the head to get launch, but it also takes spin off. So straight away, without doing nothing else, it's a slightly flatter top to the
Well,
fly,
I'm looking
slightly
at
stronger
I'm looking at
distance.
169 with a swing that was no.
So exactly the same club speed, 84.
Yes, exactly. It was no great shakes. It was.
Okay.
I think hit that fat.
A little bit heavy.
That was fat.
And this will be interesting as we change the weighting. It's whether having weight in a particular part of the shaft helps the timing.
That felt nice.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to change it up a little. I don't want to give Jeremy in particular too many swings with the club because he'll learn how to make it work. So
Well,
some
maybe.
players are very,
I think
very good at adapting. And
You're
considering the
crediting
wide,
me with more superpowers than I've actually got. I think.
considering the wide variety of implements you use when you...
Well, I don't actually. That's a fantasy, actually. I've only ever used.
The ability
No,
to change...
no, I don't use. I've got 7 clubs, and they're all from you.
Yeah.
There's no. I took all of that
Just
stuff
swing
out
lines
actually.
and things that you change, yeah.
When we did the World Trick Shot Championships in 05 and 06, what I saw was everybody had a bendy shaft, everybody had an extended driver, everybody had a two-headed driver, and everybody made the same jokes about it. So I thought, right, I'm not doing that anymore. And because I'm left and right-handed, I thought, right, well, I can actually repeat everything anyway. So I've got more material built into each shot. And if you then start to shape shots as well,
Yes.
then you've got shots off the high tees with draws and fades and God knows what. And
The one, having seen the one I particularly like is the drive off the high tee that launches, especially where we're at St George's Hill.
That one
But
came
then
out
comes
really
out
nice.
low and then goes back up the fairway.
I remember it.
That's a particularly,
Well, you know what
fun
that is. You know what that is. If you think there's the ball. What it is, it's a slice in a vertical plane, so it does that rather than that. So you've turned it 90 degrees from here. You've changed the angle 90 degrees, and really all it is that with a weak grip.
Ah, right, yeah.
It's like a bunker shot, but not. So.
And the danger you've got to be able to strike a ball from waist height. That's the other bit.
Well, that, yeah. No, it is a great shot. I learned that from an American guy, actually, a guy called Ben Witter. He was brilliant.
So going a little. I want to find where we go too light. So this is going a little lighter again.
Oh,
Okay. I'll do one more, but I think we're at too light. So reason I think that
you did say that, so.
halfway down, the club got away from you a little bit.
Well, that can happen anyway, but.
Yes,
That feels really hard to hit.
just
actually.
lost a little bit of flow to that. So where we've gone a bit light in the shaft, what you tend to get is a little bit of a detachment to the club head. So you can see first swing, went to put the power on, it kind of just got away from you. There wasn't anything to hit against. So part of what influences what will work is you're used to playing something with a decent bit of weight.
Oh,
So
that feels really hard work.
that swing, you had to really rein it back, and so club speeds dropped down. You found the timing, but you've had to change your
It
tempo.
feels like really hard work swinging that.
And ironically, it's the lightest one so far.
But you knew that would happen, didn't you?
Well, it always gets to a point where I think for you the hard work is probably having less weight in the shaft. Proportionally, the head's going to feel heavier, so it gets a bit lead ball at the end of a piece of string. It's out there, but you don't have a connection to it.
Yes, yes, that's kind
And that then basically then relies on your hand-eye coordination to find the ball with it, rather than it just dropping into plane and turning through. So we'll get that one out.
Yeah, I think I'm relying on that enough anyway.
So I'm going to get another one from here. This is a particular one. Just changing the position of the weight in the shaft a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So by going with the same base weight, still around the same dead weight, but by going to the nip on, this one's slightly smaller grip, by going to the nip on, the balance is a little bit more in the lower half of the shaft. So same weight as the Oban that you just hit, the CT115.
Okay. It's the same head all the time, is it?
Yeah. So you just want the one, keep that the constant, look at the
Cool.
timing, changing shafts up first, and then we can look ahead once we get the strike as clean as possible.
So instantly, that's weird. That's instantly easier to hit.
So you're with that one, you're swinging the lower half of the club. With the Oban, it's one where it suits somebody who's a little more body rotation, can clear through a little bit more.
Yep.
But what it did for you is it meant that it isolated the head weight too much, so you then falls out of sync.
That's how.
That was a slightly more positive. The previous one's a little bit quieter swing. That's a bit more positive through.
That's right. Yes.
I still just want to creep that weight back up again. I think you still.
The last two have not been as nice.
No,
the first one you gave me was the best.
It's once you lose. So if you go too light, you lose actually the club to use the weight. So you need a certain amount of weight to drive against and to accelerate with and to put the force into. Too heavy and it'll get stuck behind. Too light and then actually that effort level has to rein back to not throw the club out of plane. So it's a fairly, excuse the pun, fairly fine balance of enough weight but not too much.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just go back to. It'd be interesting to go back to that. That was. I'll go back to that first one. What's sometimes interesting is once we go on to the lighter ones, is then to give you your own one back afterwards and see how that then feels again. Just re-log this one back in. Okay, lovely.
Oh. Okay. Oh, yeah. That was a pull. That's my horror shot at the moment. Especially around St Andrews.
Yeah. Fine for a right-hander to pull.
You don't want to be hitting tee shots like that. So.
It's interesting with that. So ball speed's just jumped back up. So that's the first on over 120 ball speed. So giving you that little bit more raw weight back again, you can fire against it. And
I liked that more. Yes. No,
yeah. So that one's a bit of draw, but that's 172, 173 carry. So club speed's similar, but ball speed's up over the 120 mark. Because suddenly you then got something to respond to again.
Well, that's
so
better.
right. Your hands can.
How amazing.
It's what people call you can feel the club. It's like a cricketer with a pick-up. The bat just feels right.
That was 172 carry.
Carry, yeah. So slight draw, but not. It didn't knock the spin massively down. It's just mid to strong mid-flight, but it's
I don't mind about the draw, given how I know what my swing looks like, and I know that a fade isn't going to happen. If you're coming in this open, there's only one way to square it up. So until that changes, we're going to be drawing it probably.
Yeah, those last. God, that wasn't struck quite as well, but
No,
the last two, you could see you could use the club a little bit more. Okay, right. Let me put. That's a stronger hit. Yeah, whack over 120.
Yeah, that's down to me and what I'm working on. To be honest,
there's a bit of draw there. Same amount of draw, same amount of face to path, but again back over 120 ball speed. 173 carry. So there's some nice. Nice consistency there.
Okay. No, I didn't quite get that right.
Well, let me put, just as a marker, let me put the same shaft as yours back in that.
Okay.
So, like with that one, for example, face to target is only 1 degree closed. So it's not a million miles off in terms of...
No, I mean, this is always how I've kind of wanted to play, really, so that anything... It never goes left.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I think of it. If that's happening, then you can play.
Well, you sort of eliminated one side, didn't you?
Yeah. So, exactly. And you don't really... I wouldn't call it a shape, but it's more the miss, I know where it's going. So you can do something with that rather than...
It's probably coming out. Okay, just because that's that one in its current form, that's coming out slightly heavier than that. Let's just currently just back to that one, just as a.
Sure.
I certainly don't want to go heavier. I think part of that, from a swing weight point of view, is the grip. That grip's counterweighting a little bit more.
Okay. This will be interesting.
Oh, so. It should, going back up to this weight, what should happen is that as you start down, where you're now not used to having to fetch it and work as hard, so that one that's just hung left, the club just gets behind you. And
yeah.
So hands have got that back through again.
Yep.
Worked harder to get it a little bit more shot shape there. But this shows where the head's making a difference. That one's same club speed, 84.5, but 117, 118 ball speed.
Yeah, that felt okay.
Yeah. 118 ball speed, 168 distance. So
this is 5 yards in it, really.
So
at least.
Certainly, it's not like those are unplayable, but I think what's happening is they're just asking you to be spot on with your timing a little bit more than we'd like. So if you get a little bit out and the club gets a little behind you, then to get the club on the back of the ball, there's going to have a little bit more of a kind of a catapult through, and that's where that club head, that draggy, drawy one can come in.
Absolutely. Yes. No,
because you've got to just recover the club that little bit.
Yeah. No. Again, it's as much my technique as I know that I'm a bit open here. So until that changes, that what you're describing is always going to be my way of squaring the club. So,
but the heavier weight exacerbates it a little.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
No, I hear what you're saying.
It's just asking you to have to get it absolutely bang on, and it's just hard to get the butt of the club back out in front of you, and coming with your body turn.
Yeah. God, it's too amazing. Keeps going right.
Yeah.
It's not far though, is it?
No. In terms of, it look, when you see the shadow on the screen, it looks a long way. I mean, that one from a shot shape point of view, curve 8 yards, which sounds a lot as a 24 foot, sounds a lot as a number, but that's a 1.5 bay widths, which is really not that much.
No, we cover that.
And face to club path, face to path, pretty equal. When it goes off is when the face to path shuts down a little bit more. So
yeah,
if we
exactly.
were
It's
to
just the
go
speed of
with
release.
that one, 1.5 degrees more closed than the path is into out, then it starts to go. It's gone 40 foot. So that's then a bit more of a problem. So a bit of it's going to be that one back again there.
Is this the second one?
Yeah, just that little bit easier to control the club face with a bit less weight. It's it's not that you're getting quite a nice trajectory out your current clubs. You're getting relative to the one of the areas the tech or lack of tech in the head. The ball speed's good. What was the strike on that one? Let's see, where's that contact? A little high up the base, but pretty good.
I hit the ground there. So.
Okay. Yeah. So just a bit easier to control that face to path. I mean, it's a relative. That one was, almost a little more spin on that, but it's a little easier to control. It's a fine tune. It's not a vast change. And so, a little more shut again.
God, it's funny. It's funny. I actually can't pick where it's going to go.
So
I'm thinking.
Make a slight change, just a slight. I just wanted to see if we can make the balance a little less. It means a marginally less long shaft, because this is actually a hair longer than your current one. I'm going to go just a touch less long, and see if we just manage that club head weight a little bit, whether that helps to mitigate that as well. Path very neutral, one in, two out.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've been playing all right, actually.
Seen some nice looking posts. Was it Cleve? Is it Cleve Hill?
Oh, Cleve Hill's great. Have you played there?
I haven't. No, it looks amazing. Looks,
Well, you
looks
and,
a very
anybody
fun course.
watching, Cleve Hill is no longer a hidden gem, now a must play. You've got to play it. It's great. And it's designed by old Tom Morris.
I was going to say it's.
And
it's got a lot of
Mackenzie
history.
finished it off.
Okay.
So he's added 3 or 4 amazing holes on the front line, and then and the ninth hole as well. And it's played over an amazing bit of land, but it's 1,000 foot up over Cheltenham, so you get some great wind.
That high,
but the sheep and cows are so there's no rough. So you see, everybody loves it, but you have to create a few angles in places. You can't just.
Right. So,
Well, you can just smash it anyway.
Well, it allows
but
you to
you
hit
will
anywhere,
pay. You will
but-
pay. So it's what Mike Clayton always calls it an easy 90 and a difficult 70 is what you're looking for. So you want the good player to go, crikey, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And hard work.
Yeah.
And the good player, the high handicapper go, great, I made some pars, I
Yeah.
didn't lose any balls. And weren't the views great? And
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah, the views look absolutely stunning.
everybody's happy then. And you play through these quarries, and there's big undulations and small greens and quirk. There's a lot of quirk to it, but without being insane. It's not like Painswick or something like that, which is crazy golf. But it's great. That's great too, actually. Anyway, so what have we got here?
So it's just got the length down a fraction, just so I can just rein the head weight back a little bit. So same shaft. By going just a little shorter, it stops the swing weight getting quite so heavy.
Okay.
And just seeing whether that helps to control the club face a little bit more as well. It's not too bad. Okay, I'm going to just push it. I want to just narrow the gap between what you did have and what you've got there. So where we dropped the swing weight about 3 points, I want to just take it back up a little bit. So it's very using the head weight to give you a little bit more, naturally create a little bit more drop, a little more lag. Try to take if you go too heavy, you've got to fetch it and then it goes right. Too light, then end up having to steer it a little bit. So just see if we can get it dropping into plane by managing the swing weight. So anyone who goes on the Instagram handle Lead Tape Chronicles, that's essentially what we're doing here. We're putting a bit of lead tape on to manage. It's purely weight. So you're not changing the bias of the club head or anything at this level. We've got 2 or 3 grams of weight on the head, which is 2 grams is roughly a swing weight point, just to manage the timing of when the club head and the hands come through. A little low on the face.
Oh, they're all. Come on, Dale. Start ending straight.
That was a nice move. Okay. So definitely, again, retaining a bit of feel for the head's a good thing. That again is much quieter in terms of shot shape. Over 170 on carry again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
119 ball speed. Yeah. As we've gone a little bit heavier, it's allowed you to tune the timing and the striking a little bit more again.
Heavier shaft,
So
he's talking about, yeah.
I'm going to go, this is just the head weight. I'm going to just put that
the head
other one
weight,
back
right.
in just to bring the head weight back up again to where we were. But I think you say it's about say having enough weight and where it is. Having enough weight gives you something to respond to and to control. And where determines the release pattern. So
Yeah, okay. Amazing what a difference it makes.
yeah, and it's ultimately it's you can argue is it feel a little bit, but the feel comes from just the levers. It's physics. It's just mass and acceleration. So if you've got 2 grams going from 0 to 84 miles an hour in a half a second, if that 2 grams clip your ankle, you're gonna know it. So it's
Yes.
there's a lot of momentum, a lot of acceleration, a lot of physics involved, and just trying to find a happy medium between all of it, really. Yeah, and straight away back with a bit more
I
weight.
like that.
You can just see straight away you drop
Yeah.
in and strikes there.
I like that more.
Just looks much more comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, so contact on those last 2 is just click straight away. So slight draw, but
Yeah, I'm
ball
all right
speed
with that.
back over 120 again. That's okay. I'm gonna do a quick.
Do one more?
my
Do I need to do one more?
Chalk pen. I'm gonna grab my chalk pen. Mark, can you just? Have you got the chalk pen in your bay? You got the chalk pen in your bay? Yeah, okay, let's see if it's. Just want to do the check the
Am
line.
I okay
on
to
that.
hit another one? Or?
Yep, feel free. Absolutely. Thank you. I want to have a little look at the. I want to have a little look at the line, see if that's influencing anything.
Oh.
So this allows me to put a white line on the ball, which means it doesn't mark the screen, and still leaves a mark on the face.
Good call.
So,
Who invented that? Not you.
No, not me. No, sadly not. No, someone who's got far more common sense.
That's clever. Yes.
so
This is the golfing version of a padded cell, isn't it? How many of these have you got?
yeah. Therapy sessions. Yeah.
It's beautifully padded as well. It's like I've not seen anything like that.
Just to leave a little mark on the face to show toe up, toe down.
That felt all right, actually, but it'll probably draw. But yeah, there it goes.
Okay, yeah, good. Now let's have a little look at the face there. I'll show that on. Yeah, so what we're looking at there, I'll pop this onto camera here. We can see here, there's a little white chalk line there. So if it's pointing towards the toe's coming in too upright. If it's pointing towards the heel, the toe's coming in too flat. And this one's pretty much dead square up the face. So we can see there, it's a little bit heel, so it's just a little bit toe down.
So down.
Yeah, but actually with a tendency to hit a draw, you've got to go a long way off on lie to make the sole strike with the turf miss-strike. You've got to be a good 2-3 degrees off. Because by the time the club head's interacted with the turf and it's caught, the ball's left the face. So actually what you can use on, if it's half a degree or degree, this one is, you can use the lie to gear the shot shape a little bit. So the more loft you get on it, the more, if it's flatter or upright, if it's flatter, it actually gears it left, or fade gear. Then we don't determine left.
Yeah, if that's better, better.
And if it's upright, then it gears draw bast, and particularly into the short irons.
Yes.
So the more loft there is, the more
Yes.
difference.
Well, the more different. Yeah, exactly.
So, for example, with your tendency to hit that little bit of a left to right shot, erring a little bit toe down, it just holds that side spin a little bit. So actually, in terms of lie
That's okay.
position, that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
We can't blame that.
So
Okay.
And nice thing there, actually, from a setup point of view, is we've stood, chatted for a couple of seconds, talked about something else, you've gone back and hit it, and strikes there straight away.
Okay.
So, of slight overdraw, and that's taken a bit of spin off, but you can see where Carrie's starting to get to.
Oh,
So, yeah, the lower spin, a little bit of overdraw,
Blimey.
just added an extra couple of yards.
a lot.
But we're not seeing a particular change in club speed, but again, ball speed is the sort of 120
So it's just-
121.
It's cheating, really. I'm not doing anything different. It's just a different outcome.
We could argue that's that draw that adds a couple of yards. I'm going to get a couple of other heads to see what influence that has. The ones that we can control the weighting in particular. P770 next door. Well, yes. So, got one that's got a little bit of down. This is where, the Mizuno head is good in the fact that it's got a certain amount of face tech. So it's got a bit of, it's within the set of the 223s, you've got an 8.9 pitcher that are one-piece head, basically very similar to what you've currently got. And then from 7.9 up, they gradually increase.
Oh, like the old graded
the
kind of sets.
tech. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The Mickelson set I had from...
yeah, they had a little bit. Yeah, they were sort of blade into a
Yeah, there was,
muscle
there
cavity.
was definitely a muscle
Thank you
back,
very
and then the sort of longer irons were cavity.
Yeah.
So it was like three different...
so
like
with
John
these
Black-
ones-
John Letter's trilogy, remember them?
Yeah. I've
Go
got
back a bit.
a very good friend of mine who I play Halbert Hewitt with. He, for a long time, played the trilogy arms.
Yes. Isn't it? I mean, it's the same sort of concept, isn't it? It's
Mr.
just-
Holden, if you're watching, you know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
The longest pause at the top of a backswing you'll ever see in your entire life.
Worse than Gordon Brown Senior.
But many jokes made at his expense
Poor
over
thing.
the course of the years.
He
But,
probably won as many matches
but
as
a
he
very
lost.
good.
He probably won as many as he
more
lost.
than me, that's for
didn't
sure. Yeah. So, what each of these brands do actually in terms of they marrows the face in as you go up the set. They go a little bit thinner, the weight a little bit deeper, and they're just progressing. So where historically, and particularly the Mizuno set, where you'd have to, if you wanted that solid short iron and a bit more performance at the top of the set, you'd have to make a split and have two different heads altogether.
Yes.
In that one, I mean, each of these all does it to an extent. These other two are designed to be a bit more powerful, so the short irons also have a little bit more kick. But you get that graduation of performance through the set. So I'll make sure loft and lie are good on this one. So you're not having to split with that head in particular. Now, Mizuno have always done their special edition left-handed, i.e., this is a model for left-handed in MP and a JPX line. But actually, that one in its own right provides a really strong overall performance without a lot of compromise.
So the one I was hitting was...
The MP223.
It wasn't a JPX, was it?
No. So the JPX line is being renewed next year.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So that one we're yet to see what they're doing with that.
There's a lot of buzz about the Strixon irons or something like that.
Strixon have been well.
They've done well with...
Strixon have been very successful. They've been producing some very good heads for a number of years now, but have gone under the radar, very heavily under the radar. They're really well made forged heads, and made in Japan. Really good quality heads, but they've until Lowry, Matsuyama, Koepka, until he started to get the wins on tour, the recognition wasn't quite where it should have been for the quality of product. Yeah. But they've literally, as of yesterday was the last day to place any orders for the ZX range because it's a complete renewal in the new year. So unless you've got to order in for some Strixon heads now, forget about
Get
it
on
until
eBay.
the new year.
Get on eBay.
So this one, the loft on this is slightly stronger.
It looks it.
So
Straight away, you see that. Well, more offset too.
The i525.
Okay.
No, you'll get a very different. You'll get a different sound and different feel out of it as well. So it's a harder note off the face.
It certainly is.
One a bit more right. We'll see one more before I judge the flight. So much louder kind of click.
Feels so much harder off the face.
So one of the things, so ball speed, proportional ball speed, very good, but there's one aspect which partly the loft and partly the design, it's not unexpected, but the spin's quite a lot lower.
Yes,
so this one's down at 4.2 on spin. So it's a much stronger flight, but actually what we're going to see is the balance of shot just go off a little bit for you. So
would an offset do that as well?
No, what offset does is it gives the toe a bit more time to square in. It also, visually, we tend to align the toe with the hosel. So naturally, we tend to shut an offset at address. So that's part of where the draw bias comes from. It can help to produce a little bit more flight because it gives a player more time to square the face up.
Okay.
But actually, I'll swap the other head on because this one's actually knocked the flight down a bit too much.
Can I have one more go?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. So please.
Yeah, so it's if you get a player who's high launch, high spin, lovely. But the spin on that, so ball speed, that smash factor is great.
gosh,
So the
it's gone
face is giving
miles.
you lots of ball speed, but the spin's also a lot lower. And actually so yes, it's gone 182 yards.
Yeah, but I couldn't hold the
But
green.
it's-
It felt like I couldn't hold the green with it. It became out way flat.
I'm 6-iron, you'd be able to, but when you get down to the lower irons, then it's going to have no spin whatsoever. So there are certain players that's great for because they kick it up and spin it pots, but for you, not.
I didn't like it. I must admit.
Very different feel to what you're used to.
Yeah, it feels like too shooty, too hot, not a proper shot.
Well, it's part of it. What you're used to playing a single piece forging, which is a traditional look, very kind of a soft traditional sound, and sound is feel. It's important. You've got to one look forward to hitting it.
It
but
did
it's
feel
got to tune into what you're used to.
It felt hot off the face though. I think.
So again, I'll make sure this is relevant.
Right here, it's 10 away, is it?
Yeah, this is so in terms of same sort of bit of tech on it, this will hit it a little bit higher.
Okay.
Loft's a bit closer there as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Do it.
Okay, so immediate a little bit more launch, a little bit more spin. It's not quite as much spin as the Mizuno head, but a bit more, certainly more spin than the ping. Okay, good ball speed, good launch. It's interesting. There's a little bit more, seeing a little bit more draw out of this, which you could argue kind of from a design point of view. Technically, they're kind of probably geared towards a little bit more forgiveness than the Mizuno head.
Yeah.
It's still a little bit lower spin, but it's much closer to where we want it to be than the ping head was for you. Great ball speed. Yeah, so in terms of...
Oh, wow.
This is then a question of sort of, I guess, how much would you be looking to have from the club there's a bit more shot value. So that was 177. So there's a little more shot value, partly because the spin's still naturally that little bit lower. So it's kind of this is where we kind of would look at to say, right, what are we wanting to get from these? What's the focus?
174 is what I want. Because that's what it used to be, and that's like, okay, if that works, then everything through the bag slots in nicely, and the wedges, all my half shots work for distance as well, because the wedges don't go too far. And then everything is great because pitching wedge is 118, carry obviously 9 iron 130, 145 8 iron 159 was 7 iron. I mean these are all numbers that are etched in my mind. 174 6 iron, and it didn't just go that. It would like it had, I'd miss it to go 172, and it was. So that's a 185 5 iron, and then 200 or 195 200 with a 4. That's kind of where I want to be.
Yeah, and so, certainly the last two heads you hit are a bit more powerful.
Yes.
But
not really
what we're seeing
looking
with, if we're going back to that one's drawn a little bit more, but if you take, a little bit of draw there. Green, what we can see with the Mizuno, because there's a little bit less, a little bit less technical. The spin's more what we call a 6 iron, very more traditional 6 iron spin.
Yeah, okay.
173, 173. You could squeeze 1 degree of loft off it and give you
get
that
to
extra 2 yards without the spin.
And what I actually also think is important, and it's really important for me, but that actually should be important for everybody, is to be able to play a 3/4 shot as well. And if you take all the spin off that, then that's not a controllable flight. Now I hit a lot of those where I go, I call it, my pupils will know this, I call it the L swing. Just narrow the stance up, make that, and then and a sort of bunty follow through. And if there's not a spin on it, I don't think that's going to go too hot, isn't it?
So you see the difference in performance here. You've got the Mizuno head, 5,100 on spin, 16.7 off the ping, which is flatter and very little spin. So certain players that's great for, because if you hit high and spinny, you can just hit that head and not have to go nuts on loft. Turnway, quite more similar on loft. Slightly more efficient, you could argue, on ball speed, a little bit lower on spin, but it's just jumped on those extra few yards. So with that spin being a little less, I think some of it's going to be a feel and what you're used to looking at and experiencing from a strike point of view. That's likely to be, it looks like it's coming out a hair short there, but I'll check there aren't any anomalies in. That one there, that's a bit of an anomaly there. I don't want to sugarcoat things. It's 155, that one. But,
that's not
average
club,
there.
That's me.
Average there for those ones is 170. You squeeze.
Do 1 degree.
Squeeze 1 degree, and then you're comfortably 173 odd. And it's pretty much bang on where you want it to without the spin dropping that 10%. So I'll pop that. I can do that with that head.
Okay.
But that way you're also getting, you're making the most of a little bit of the performance that we can see from the heads.
Yeah. No, I would want that.
I'm not losing the control at the bottom end.
I'm 15 years out of date with these now. Well, not out of date, but they're old.
They're still they're
a great club. Don't get me
heads
wrong.
that are the same as those out there now. Take a. I'm going to pick up the 4 right now, aren't I?
Yeah.
But any of these, technically there's a little bit of perimeter weighting there, a very small amount, but there's very little depth of weighting and very little move of CG. So actually, these are pretty close to the equivalent of a blade.
Yeah, exactly. They've always felt like that, even though they're not quite.
There is some weight moved around, but it's not necessarily enough to make a really tangible change to performance. It's as much a mental forgiveness than a physical one. I'm going to pop this back in, and I'll just nudge the loft on this.
No objection to slightly cheating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the text there to be used, isn't it?
Yep.
So I'm going to get this to a 30-degree loft. So just nudge that down the 1 degree. How often are you playing at the moment?
Okay, a little bit. Nice week in St Andrews just now with Chris and Steve Seaman as well, who has been here.
Chris is Jeremy's brother, for anyone who.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
He's also a very good player.
Yeah, 3 other guys. Chris just bought he's got 2 kids at St Andrews, so bought a place there and we went and stayed there, so that's cool.
Nice, lovely town. How is it all holding up post-open?
That was great. Yeah, hard and running.
Yeah.
Greens are beautiful. Well, I thought they were.
Well, I guess as a course, it's used to having thousands of people on it.
Exactly.
Anyway, isn't it?
And it also shows you don't need, brown grass isn't dead. It'll come back, and I bet you anything. After 77, the greens were never better at our home course. They probably said, "Oh, amazing, isn't it? How they've recovered." It's like, no. The roots grow down. Makes it stronger.
They'll be pretty deep at the moment.
It's
that's
hard
for
to
sure.
kill it.
Yeah.
Right,
So interesting taking that degree off just where that moves the launch and spin to.
oh, that instantly feels like a club. Yeah, that's got to have.
A little bit more on the strike to come from that. It's just nudged that spin down 200-300 revs. So not enough to be a concern.
164. Okay.
I was a little bit less clean on the hit.
Okay.
But if that's the miss is where the good one with the current one is. So.
I wouldn't say that's brilliant either.
Let's see where that strike point is. Yeah, still a little on the inside of the face, both of those. Sounded
That
close.
should be better.
Yeah, so that one is club speeds at 83 rather than we were sort of 84, 85, but that's then, it's still just clinging on to the 5,000 rev spin point of view. So you get the extra mile an hour and a half club speed, you're a couple on ball speeds, three to 4 yards, and then we're
Yeah, it's when I'm losing a full club. It's when these go 160. When a 6 iron goes 160, it's like I don't like that. That's a full club. And you know. Oh, pulled the arse off that. Excuse me. Oh.
But, so yeah, that one has gone right a long way, but it's still at 4.7 on spin. Now with the others, you're down at 3.9, 4.4. So actually, considering how far right that's gone, actually it's not knuckled all the spin off.
Okay.
Yeah, so between 4.8 and 5,000 on spin. That was slightly quieter club speed, just almost a bit of a guard against it going right.
Right, let's rev that up. Come on.
Had a bit more freedom to it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, that one there, good example. So it's 83 and a half. So we've been a mile an hour or so higher.
The one we should pay attention to, actually.
16 and a half launch. Use the cursor so that everyone knows what I'm looking at.
Okay,
If I
well,
can
that's
find,
perfect.
if I can find it.
Excellent.
There we go. 16 and a half launch, 4.8 on spin. So it's a couple of hundred revs stronger, which it should be for 1 degree. 172. We know you've been a mile an hour higher. That's 174.
Perfect.
Retaining
Yes,
that.
exactly.
Other kind of key numbers, land angle 44.9, so 45 degrees.
So to me, it's what happens when I feel like I do a decent one.
Yeah.
That's not outlandishly quick or anything.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, that was a decent one. What happened then? And that's the one we should pay attention to, and that's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's still 88 feet on height. So, 90 odd feet, is 30 yards is always a nice level. 45 on land angles where you want it to be. And if that's got that little bit of draw, square the face off a bit more, a little bit more club speed, it's going to get slightly higher and still land with a good amount of control. And it's actually once you go to this head, where earlier on with your current clubs, with that head, we were saying, okay, the spin's a little on the high side. You could, if that was where the spin retained, you could say, okay, well, do we use the ball just to nick a couple of hundred revs of spin off? Whereas actually, if you're used to the feel and the playability of the Pro V1X, if we go to a different ball, that's going to take the spin off too much again, and then you're back to
Does the
that.
Pro V1X spin more?
Yeah, it used to be a few years back.
I know. Okay.
So the firmer core of the Pro V1X is easy to get the cover to pinch and grip. So hence, there's
So it's
that's actually now
the X
slightly higher,
the X has
slightly
extra
higher
spin.
Yeah, about 300 to 400 revs. Yeah. But actually, that's then giving you a really nice balance of flight in the irons there.
Okay, so we should stick with that ball.
Yeah.
What about the Z stars? I've got about 16.
Z stars again, slightly softer feel. So the Titleists have got that little bit of a firmer feel to them.
Yeah.
Core's a little bit firmer.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit more of a, for want of a better phrase, a bit more of a click off the face. The Strixons will sound and feel a little bit softer. The Z Star will take a little bit of spin off versus Pro V1X. So what we've historically seen is that someone who's less of a heavy hitter now, obviously Kepka's gone to Strixon, so the Z Star Plus is more of a, used to play Titleist ball, is a slightly higher compression, harder ball designed for higher club speeds. The Z Star historically has tended to be better for a more kind of moderate swing speed, slightly softer core, loads a little bit easier at the driver level. but still got the sort of premium cover, still a relatively high compression when you take it relative to a distance ball. But yeah, a little bit of a softer feel, and generally, certainly over the X, a couple of hundred rows less spin again.
Less spin
yeah.
for that said start. Okay. Okay, so it's actually all right. That's going to be fine.
Yeah, but really nice balance of shot there, which is
And
nice
that
going
was
back to
no,
that
I like,
combo.
and that felt like a really good swing. It felt like that was what I was trying to do.
So very neutral on lie, 61.5, very, very standard, for want of a better phrase. Slightly weaker loft currently than a lot of them is standard at 30, but as that one's 140 efficiency. Again, a little bit. There's another mile an hour or two contact wise, but that's the slightly weaker strike, and that's 168.
Okay.
Yeah, 119 ball speed. Yeah, and for one that's just hung left a couple of yards, again, neutral, the spin's not flared up, 171 carry. Draw it back in, you're at 173, 174.
No, that felt
It's a
like,
lovely contact.
Yeah,
Yeah, 142 efficiency, the smash, really good there.
that should be good.
118 ball speed.
Maybe a touch to draw.
Touch of draw. Yeah, slightly touch less on ball speed than the previous one.
Interesting. Okay.
I think ball speed was a mile an hour more on the previous one. That's
good. I hit
really
that well.
nicely timed.
I hit that.
173.
God, it's bloody drawn again.
No, so a little bit of a draw. So face to target's only 0.3 of a degree closed. So that's more path based as a draw than face based. But that one, then your 120 ball speed, 173 on the nose.
I suppose I shouldn't be too.
4993 on spin. So again, just a nice sort of nice
good
amount
carry
of
as
launch,
well.
nice amount of spin. Good efficient contact.
And this loft is
here.
what, 30
That's
degrees?
30. Yeah. And so a lot of 6 irons are 28 now. So we'd have to weaken that off a little bit from standard to get it there. But we don't want a 4,500 on spin.
6 iron
So
30, 7 iron 34.
if you were to go
8
there,
iron
yeah.
38.
That would
9
pitch
iron
wedge at
40,
46.
pitching wedge 46. That's what I'm trying to
So
get to. So you'd have to then
50, 54,
50,
58 if you
50.
wanted to continue those through.
Yeah, exactly.
That would, in principle, be where you'd spread that to. But down that bottom end, it's all about hitting. We often find that kind of loft gaps go slightly uneven to hit exact distances down the bottom, a degree here or there, just with spin variables when you get to the other wedges. The more grip on the face tends to, you'll often go possibly 1 degree less gap between pitch wedge and gap wedge, where you're then going to the out of set wedge, different spin rates. So, but for that part of the bag, just a nice balance of shot.
Yes.
Which is good.
Yes, no, I can see
And
that.
I'll do the dead weight difference between these two. So your current 6 iron, dead weight is in total weight. Current 6 irons at 458 grams. We're at 39.
Just a moment.
So now some of that's the grip, not as heavy a grip, but you've got
yeah.
10 grams out the shaft. So that's where quite in terms of heft, a decent difference.
Yeah.
A decent difference there.
Can I have
Of course.
hit again with that? See what.
And it's just about ease of getting it through the ball. It's, so lovely hit,
That was a good shot.
165. Club speed straight away back down to 82.5.
Isn't that amazing?
So just
But that was good.
you've moved it nicely.
No, that was
And
really-
the overall weight balance profile of it's good.
Yeah.
So it's not like the bottom end's getting out of sync and you're
No.
having to find contact with it.
So you did a good job last time.
But
Working with what you had
and,
anyway.
and your delivery hasn't changed.
No,
It's just
that was
the
good.
amount of
I'm
energy
really-
coming into the top
Yeah.
has just diminished a little bit, and therefore that just asks you to work a bit harder to
taking
get
8
the
yards
very
off
best
it.
out of it.
And that, that's amazing. That's
So a couple of yards for loft, and then realistically kind of 3 or probably 2 or 3 yards for the shaft weight, 2 or 3 yards to the face tech.
can't
But,
quite.
that's 17.53 on spin. It's still a good flight. but
That's
we're
been
able
the
to just
most
get
amazing thing.
a
That.
bit more distance through a lighter weight and some tech.
I'm feeling these are good shots, and yet,
And so that's the one's just a hair off on strike. 84 club speed, so stronger club speed. Little bit off on strike.
that's the
160.
shot. You see,
Yeah.
that's what I've been getting.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's a hole.
And so it's just, if you get a little, if it gets just slightly heavy, then you have to then play, you've got, basically you're recovering it with hands and forearms, which is, what was it, a few percent of your muscle mass. Whereas if everything's more together, then a slight miss isn't punished as much because it's going through your core and you're using the ground and using your legs and your glutes. Whereas if it's just a salvage job at the end, it's a flick with the hands. So any miss hit's just going to be punished that little bit more. So the miss hit with the lighter ones, 167, 68. So that one's that's your 168.
Right, and that was a clunker.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Interesting. That'll be
That's the
interesting.
119 and a half,
That'll be interesting.
171.5.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's 10 yards, isn't there, really?
It's pretty close to the club. You think for 1 degree. So we've got a club now that's, broadly speaking, the current version of what you've got. It's just there's a bit more of a progression off the 221s being just a pure blade.
Yeah.
Just that's the players' club with a bit of performance, and without going kind of big and hollow, and it's just got that bit of face tech marraged in. But that's also the biggest effect's going to be at the very top end. So going a bit lighter when you're putting in the most acceleration, the most speed, that's where, to get your 4-iron spot on requires you to be absolutely on the money. So that dead weight being lighter is going to have the biggest effect at the top end of the set. So where that gap between 4-iron and hybrid was starting to spread a little bit, we should really start to see that narrow up. You've got the most tech on the face.
Yes.
And
got it.
then the more you kind of whip and accelerate, that lighter weight coming with you has the biggest effect.
Maybe that's why I've changed that Cleveland one, because I actually didn't really like the 4-iron on the... I do hit that one all right.
Yeah.
And that, it doesn't, I mean, the head doesn't mark as easily, and it might just be a harder head, or, I don't know. I don't know.
Look at, let's see if there's anything.
I've enjoyed that club. I think that's...
Lofted. Yeah, so balance is in line with the rest of them.
It should be. They were set up by you.
Yeah.
I had 2 sets, so they were... I was originally going to take one to Australia and leave it there, but never got that far.
Let's see. Yeah, so loft at 23, so it's probably, you might be 1 degree, that's only a couple of yards. It can be, all else being equal, it can just be sometimes that's a bit of a change if you feel like you're getting a bit more out of it. And there's no more tech on this head than there is on the Mizuno.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just...
There's certainly a ball speed jump, particularly at the top end
You'll
where
see that,
it's using the face.
Good.
Yeah, good three quarters of a club. So,
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I'm clunking it, a full. I mean,
And that's where that tech, the drop off by having that thinner face, it spreads weight. So it's like doing that with a stance. It stabilizes. So there's less twist at the head, less energy loss, without actually having to do anything, which is always nice.
All right.
So, and lengthwise, obviously we keep identical. Balance is the swing weight is very similar. Maybe a fraction stronger.
Doesn't feel
that's
anything.
The lighter shaft means it's easy to get the heavier swing weight without it going up in weight, because proportionally the head weight's a bit more of the club. You're going to feel the head a bit more. If we didn't go a bit heavier, then you'd lose the bottom end and flip it. So it's still a lot lighter in total weight, but we're just repositioning a little bit as well.
Okay.
So let's make a note on that. Okay. So what would be interesting? Well, I think let's do, from an energy point of view, let's go top. Wedges are the least effort, we'll do those at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I don't care. You tell me what you want to...
So let's have a little...
Now, I bought these 2 drivers because you can do an instant repair for me, if you could. That's come out. I don't know how you're going to...
Yes, so the bit that's come out, again to show camera, there's a little plug here. Basically it's a hole that the manufacturers use to put a little bit of glue in the head, which catches dirt and dust and grime, and also weights the head to tolerance. And then they put a little
plug in it,
a little kind of plastic plug, and then file it off. So stick it in and file it off. Now what I will do is I shall give that to.
Can we do anything about that?
To James. And he'll
Thank
take
you,
it
lad.
through to the workshop and see what can be done. So hopefully, actually, one of the way of getting into it, hopefully one of the other two weights, those ones normally you can take those off and either put, hopefully you can get whatever's out through one of those holes.
Okay.
Sometimes with Cobra there's a little hole right where the screw is, so
okay.
that might be another route for it. But it's
I was thinking that'd be an easy thing to do. There would be you just tip it out.
There often
Sometimes
is.
maybe
Often,
not.
certainly on the current ones there is. Yeah, it's the kind of thing. It sounds massive when it's in there because of how.
Well, I didn't
sort
really
of
notice it. I was doing a show
amplifies.
and somebody said there's a rattle in the driver. Did you know that? I thought, oh, well, I normally use the other one, which
So zoned
this
in.
one. So
Yeah.
I didn't even notice, but they were
Yeah.
saying, crikey, didn't you hear it? And I went, no. No, I didn't.
It's amazing what. Well, actually, the thing is, in swing, you wouldn't really hear it in swing because it can often get settled. So if you get a little bit of grit inside, it can either catch on some of the glue that's in there. So particularly when it's warm, it can stick onto it.
Has he done it already? Jesus,
Very long.
you're a master of your craft, lad. It's taken,
so-
it's
Certainly
taken
wasn't me, it
It's
was
visible.
me.
That
90
is,
seconds.
That's the little plug that came out of that hole.
Yeah.
So right. So in terms of for playing, oh well, ignore that comment. Exactly the same, aren't they?
They are the same.
So I'm going to say from a playing point of view, which one do you use?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I had two.
Yes,
So if I
it's
break one, if somebody treads on one in a show, then I could have got another one. So
It's almost it's a good wear pattern.
I've been practicing, yeah.
almost a training aid. Right. So
And they're both equal. So
I guess just
I don't know the difference.
Whichever one, right.
No, it doesn't matter. We'll choose the one actually that I've been playing with was the one with no rattle in it. So
so this one.
this
There we
one.
go. Lovely. So what I'll do is I'll get this switched over to driver. So again, from a performance point of view, anything of note, anything you've seen, noticed?
I've loved these. They've been great.
Yeah.
Really good. So
T height, depending on how high you go, I can screw those in and out. So,
I see that.
so anti-clockwise for out and clockwise for in, depending on how high you want to make them.
But no, it's got a nice flight on it, and I've done some things with my swing, and I'm certainly hitting it on a reasonable flight.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, part of it,
Can
if
always
it's,
go
if, it's
wrong,
visual,
but-
if it's visually in a kind of a window that you like, that's always a good thing.
Yep. So. Oh God.
Got a little into out on that, 4 into out. And it could be that with what we've done with the irons that there's.
Don't worry. No, I can do that.
Yeah, or is that a familiar sight?
I can do that. Yeah. Right. So.
That's a better move through. Okay. Not a bad flight. Just a calculation on the spin there, but it's,
Oh. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You see, that's all right for me.
not bad. Not bad. Sort of upper mid trajectory, but not a weak flight. That sounded a better hit.
Yeah.
Okay, so probably a little, maybe slightly on the toe side. That's just seeing it gear over a little bit. Yeah, a little bit on the toe side there. But so it's just that's where it's just going to see the shape tail over a little bit more. Stronger ball speed on that and a stronger flight. Okay.
I didn't hook that, but I might have blocked it. Oh no. There we go.
Okay, so that one's an interesting one. That one's just popped the spin a little bit. So let's do maybe kind of one or two more. That one's just so ball speed very good, 149 efficiency. The smash is good there. So again, as loft goes down, the smash goes up because the ball's going to come off the face a bit quicker. So driver, we're looking for 1.5. But that one, the spin at 3.2, that is a little bit weak.
That's a bit more normal.
Good ball speed, 149.
Yeah, that's a bit more.
Okay, yeah. So
that's a bit more normal.
So that one if that kind of felt a more representative contact, we're then into, 150 efficiency, 149 ball speed. That then trajectory-wise is, there's enough spin to not fall out the sky and knuckle.
No, it doesn't do
but
that.
not enough to balloon. So it's kind of.
No, it doesn't do either of those things usually.
So if I put that optimizer screen on, what we can see here, and with the numbers here, that there's depending on which screen everyone can see, there's a sort of a channel that TrackMan gives us from a kind of optimal condition, flight condition. So see here, everything's in the blue. So for that swing, so club speed, angle of attack, there are optimal ball speed and launch conditions, and that sits right in the middle of it. So technically, if you got a bit more launch, a bit less spin, you'd creep 5 yards out of it. But it's a good
setup for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see one or two more just to get a good average. Just got a little high on the face.
High on the face, massively high. Oh God, look at that. Holy hell.
The T can work out a little bit with hitting, so I'll just rotate balls so that one doesn't,
They can, should we say, fatigue. Good hit, 151 ball speed. Okay, yeah. So when you've got the ball speed and the contact, that one's a little bit stronger. So that one maybe slightly erring toe side on strike.
Yep.
Just took a little bit of spin off. Not silly low. Again, if I optimise that, the spin sits at the bottom end of the window. Mm-hmm. But by getting that, that's then right up on the optimum total. So there's, you can see, strike just erring toe side, which is where this has seen it just draw a little bit more. But that's very, very neutral on the delivery. So for the stronger, better hits, that one was a bit less just because it spun a little bit more. 2 miles an hour more ball speed and a bit less spin. I'll just that one.
So it's about what it's going to be, really.
So certainly with those technically for where the equipment is now, off-centre in theory there's a little bit more, principle. Again, they've all gone, I'll use this to describe, all gone, lighter in the face, so they've gone thick and thin on the face to save a bit of weight.
Okay.
Lighter in the crown, trying to remove bits of weight from in the sole to optimise position of the weight. And that, again, perimeter weights a little bit more. So technically off-centre, the head might retain a bit more ball speed. But if you take particularly that last hit there, there's the only way of getting more distance, because all the numbers are in an optimum pattern. And actually for total distance, that spin being a bit lower is that bit stronger. So it's often quite a good flight over here.
Yes.
If we're in the US, we might prefer the other one to optimise carry. There's only one thing that's going to change the end number on that, and that is ball speed, which ultimately, because the ball speed efficiency of the smash is good, is club speed.
Jim, yeah.
Well, I don't know whether Jim could hit it for you or not. But so, that's something that we'll have a bit of explore. It's whether part of it is if you can get away with a bit more across the face. This is where a lot of the tour guys are now hitting it further. Golfers have become so much more athletic the last 5-10 years because of how forgiving the clubs are. You don't have to hit it right out the middle anymore. So you can be more aggressive and get away with it. So it's a bit of one feeds the other. In principle, if you get a more forgiving head, you can let the shaft out a bit more. You might pick up club speed because of that. But it's certainly performing efficiently. And it's this sort of end you'd look at and go, well, depending on what we come out with it, if we got, for example, 5 or 6 yards, you then got to weigh it up with, well, how much is it going to cost to replace it, and is that then worth it versus a club that...
No, you said this last time, actually, that I was here, that you're not going to get any more out of the heads. You might, like you say, it's all on forgiveness now, and then maybe you can jump at it a bit harder. But
ball speed out the middle has been limited since 2003.
Exactly. You've been saying this for
it's
20 years.
Average ball speed across the face, which is the key. That's where there's a gain. I'll pop something together to see what we can.
What about angle of attack? Where am I up?
Angle of attack, 1.8 up. So
Oh, I am up.
enough. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
better than normal.
Previous one 3, one of the earlier ones. So
So I've got a plus.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Happy with that. I was thinking that I should, judging from the flight I'm getting, I was thinking, well, I can't be down.
No, and so that with a little bit of face-to-path rotation, it's a strong
getting as
going
much out
ball
of it as
flight.
you can.
So, we could gain ball speed, but if spin goes up, you actually probably lose total. So I'll put a couple of bits together and see, just as an alternative, see what we can do.
All right.
So just looking to find some similar. The shaft Jeremy's got currently isn't made anymore, so I'm just trying to find a similar one. So just to try and see if we could squeeze a little more out, I've gone very slightly lighter. Same principle as the irons, although from a wood shaft weight, this is the XT60, the Mitsubishi, the Kurakage XT60, same series that Rory used to play for a long time and went back to recently, is a 64 grams, so it's not a heavy dead weight. We're looking at one that's pretty much spot on, just under 60, just to see if we can squeeze.
It's very interesting to have my thoughts sort of confirmed, because I was much more thinking, well, the irons are the thing I'm interested in, really. And you've just sort of confirmed that.
And I think you've got, it's all, I guess it's taking tech relevant to what's out here now. Obviously, from an irons point of view, those are just a solid lump of metal. There's those being the MP60, sorry, being more obvious with that. And so there's driver tech kicked on quite a lot 10, 15 years back. Iron tech has started, especially in a very better player's head, has just started to really, the last few years has really kind of moved forwards. Initially, you could have got the ball speed, but like we saw with the other heads, less spin. But that meant they cannoned miles. But then you'd find the lower handicap players and the pros still staying in the traditional style heads because they want the control. And we're now at the point, the last year or two, where there's some models out there, Mizuno with that head, Titleist with their T100S. You've got, there are 2 or 3, PXG have done it the last few years. There are a few heads there that actually give quite a bit of performance without becoming a bomb. So you can pick what level of help and what level of strength you want from the club. No, it's because there's a weight nod in the bottom. That'll be why it's lighter. You can pick how much you want from the club head, and now you've got a real range to work with it. So you really can tune them in now. But say drivers, because the speed's been limited, it's like fairway hybrids. The ball speed has increased much more because there's no limit on them in the last few years.
Yeah, but that's not good either, is it? And you get 3 wood going as far as your driver.
Well, it's what we've seen from a tour point of view is there are some very strong hitting heads out there now, and actually they're using fairway woods to approach greens, or they're using it as a strategic teeing off club now rather than something just to get it going miles. They were getting too close to the driver, too much separation from
you need the
long iron to fairway wood.
No, you need the.
So a lot of the models have reined the distance back. Well, not reined the ball speed back, but they're just going to create a little bit more flight.
Yeah. I think that's vital. I can't see how having too much trampoline effect, or whatever you want to call it, too much shoot is a good thing. It can't be.
Yeah, I mean
the only one you'd want
the
is the one you can't use it on.
yeah. Well, this is very true. Yeah.
But then.
So going to current version of your existing head. And
same loft, is it?
Yes.
God, amazing. How different it looks. Okay. Might have another go on it.
I'll do one more, but I might make a quick change. So a bit like with the irons, we might have very quickly found too light. that's not enough to hit against the. Yeah.
I don't like that.
That's too light.
Yes. Okay.
So it'd be interesting to see where that spin ends
So
up.
what I also really like about what you did with these is you got it to sit with the hands slightly forward.
So that's part of that's actually just where the head actually naturally
Yes,
sits in
but
for
you did the same thing with the 3-wood, which I think which has been brilliant.
Yeah.
The 3-wood has been amazing. It's the Epic.
Yes.
But this was just what appealed, and that one
Oh, let me just do it
doesn't
back
sit.
up so the head doesn't fall off.
Doesn't sit quite the same.
Yeah, they've definitely changed some of the lines through that. So hosel
So it
into
looked less
the
lofted,
head.
and it looked like the hands were more back. Yeah, the hands miles back. See the
Okay,
difference?
yeah, so
You see the
angled that
difference?
back.
Loads of persimmon woods in the old days were made like this. I hated them. But no, I want.
Well, it's to get them sat. It's that visual of sitting open. Whereas
Yeah,
actually for you,
awful.
the head that kind of sits in a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me change
Yeah.
that.
So-
I'll get a head that's going to sit.
And then I feel like I have
visually
to
a
tow
little
it in, and I can't see any loft.
Yeah.
And
So let me get a different head for that then. So we'll get a.
thank you. I haven't shanked one into the padded cell yet.
Oh, there's always time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
When we hit
hopefully
wedge
not
it.
with the driver. Let's find a head that just sits that little bit of a different way round. Because I'm just going to go to the kind of, in theory, the less low spin model. Just because that'll have that little bit of a kink in the face. So that's going to sit just a little bit more hands forward.
Yeah.
And I'll just get a bit more weight back in the shaft again. So I don't want to go too low spin on the setup based on where that other one was. So this has naturally got a little bit more loft on. So, don't want to swing it with that in.
Might come out in the backswing.
But yeah, you don't want it coming out of the backswing. That should, it kind of wants to sit in its backside a bit, but that should visually sit a little bit better. I'll check just make sure that sits visually more comfortable. I'll check the swing weight just to.
Oh God, that's it.
Wait, it sits because of the way that the sole curves.
Oh, okay.
It sits back a bit, but.
Okay, so if I push the hands forward, actually I can see a bit of loft on it. So yeah, let's give it.
Yeah, I'll just double check the swing weight just to know that kind of actually visually doesn't look horrible. It is important. You've got to look forward to using it.
Well, that's the thing about this Cobra, the ones that I've got that you did me last time. They sit so nicely, to my eye anyway.
Very Bernard Langer-esque. Mind you, a little bit more weight straight away.
Well, it's about as straight as Bernard as well. So.
Down the line a little bit more. So taking the weight back up. We went too light before. As you put the power out, it just got away from you. So let's see one more there.
Be interesting. Oh yeah. Oh bloody hell.
A little toe.
Maybe it's a toe. I think it's more.
Little toe top. There's a bit less speed. I'm going to change that up a little bit more. Still not quite as. And this is the thing. Ultimately, unless we find a couple of miles an hour on.
I'm pretty sure.
Some speed.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that. We're
We'll give it
a bit of a goose chase
one
here.
more. But
The Holy Grail. I mean, yeah. It's always interesting to try, but it's not the bit that I can.
Yeah,
follow.
and certainly based on those couple going
Yep.
light enough in principle, to see a tangible change in speed, and the timing went off. Also, there is that. In theory, you might be able to move it faster, but if you can't find the strike, then it's worthless. it's just ultimately, the top end of the bag in particular, strike is king. You're going to, it's an effort club. You're going to be moving it fairly quickly no matter what. If you lose strike, then you lose the ability to just keep developing that speed. So.
Low.
Oh, yeah, low
God.
right. That looked a little more behind. We'll do one more, then we'll just revert back to yours just as a normalise. Yeah, that again, you can see that's thrown the timer. So ball speed's okay, but you can see having to recover that a lot more. So pick up the right one. It's
funny, isn't it?
Let's just revert back.
Yeah. Oh God, that looks so much more friendly, that head.
Yeah, and then, so ball speed right up where we were, and the flight.
I was going to say, that's got to be a good shot.
So what we've got there is then trajectories in really, really, really good area. So again, if I stick it on the optimizer, that is, it's absolutely optimum. So yeah, ultimately, strike straight away there. And we haven't found 1 mile an hour club speed out of anything else. Even going lighter, just the efficiency went. So
well done, Cobra.
So
well done you last time.
Keep them as is. Yeah. It's always worth checking, but
yes, I'm
when you're
completely,
moving something
completely unsurprised by that. Actually,
it's what I've found the last few years of mine.
You told me this last time.
Looking at changing it, being conscious of it. Yeah. I've got an M4, so it's 4 odd years old.
You said you had an old burner last time.
Previously, I had I
think it was burner.
I had the RBZ Tour.
Yes.
The first generation one. I had that for 7 years.
Yeah.
And it was only when I became too old and weak for the shaft. I changed shaft, but at that point I then thought, well, let's look at the head and update that. The flight was still very good out of it, but it was the M4 at that point was so much better off centre, especially where they'd geared the toe. Yeah. My miss is a toey hook, so the twist face, the gearing on the face helped straighten it off, and there was a tangible gain there. But at the moment, I'm in two minds. I mean, it's still, when it's good, it's still a great set of numbers. The spin's great, the launch angles, it's an 8.5 degree, so I've always launched it high. I might be able to squeeze 5 yards out of it, but it makes no difference versus something you're familiar with.
Go and practice your chipping.
You know my game too well. You always do the champagne stuff, all right.
For that little game.
But it is, and that's ultimately, and then it just boils down to the player as to what value they see. Some people just want to change because they just fancy a new toy.
Yes, and I can understand that.
And there'll be some, say off centre, some little bit of gain in ball speed, but actually, because it swings so well, you find in the middle of the face, very, very limited. Very limited. So I'll pop these shafts back on the rack.
Okay. Is that for me, James? Thank you.
That's a club I'd like to go to.
Let's do it.
Right, well,
it's awesome. It's amazing.
Persuade the other half that I need to go on a golf trip. That's the...
What? Really?
Well, she likes me. She wants to see me when I've got time off. So, very, very kind lady in that respect.
Well, that's lovely of her.
So we've got the first gen Epic, which
I've loved.
Particularly as a fairway wood, particularly sounds like an odd comment, but you get some heads that are very good as a teeing off.
Oh yeah.
Fairway wood, and some that are very good as a fairway. This was just a good all-round head. It really kind of sits nice and neat, picks the ball up well.
Yeah. Is there any danger of wearing it out?
Yeah, there are. Fairway woods and hybrids. There's more danger because of the you're squeezing against the turf. So when you get really firm turf like this now, if you get that bit of shaft lean and squeeze it, then it's pinching against the ground. So it feels. Let's have a little look. It feels
fine. Catch the light right. No, that's absolutely fine. So what I'm looking for
Look
there is
for
a
a
little
cracked face
kind of
at the end.
wave.
Yeah.
So some of it's actually just running your fingers very lightly across it to feel whether there's a dip. But no, that's absolutely fine.
Good. And they will last presumably a bit.
And I think we're probably seeing more fairway woods in the last batch of years where they push the face tech a little bit further.
Yeah.
It's a bit like if you've got very high speed, if you're 100, 510 miles an hour plus with a driver, then actually practicing with range balls is a bad idea because the faces are designed to hit the kind of the certain construction of ball. So if you get the old one-piece range balls, then the face is going to crack because if you're a high speed
on a fairway wood
or a driver. Because they've pushed the face that bit thinner, but they've also designed it for a certain construction of ball, a multi-piece construction, and that loads the face differently. So for a number of years now, the manufacturers have all said, if you've got high speed, don't hit the one-piece range balls with a driver if you can help it.
I think I'm right.
But fairway woods now, because there's not the limit on there's not the same sort of COR or the ball speed limit off the face as the driver, because the face is so much smaller, there's a limit on what's physically doable, but it's not the longest hitting club in the bag. So there's no point having a 3-wood and driver go the same distance. So they know there's a limit on what's likely
usable
to be done.
Yeah.
But
so that
because they
makes
can
the
push
face-
it further, then on more recent models, you're more likely at high speed. If you hit down on it and hit it hard, then you're putting quite a lot of pressure on the face.
And you can still get an Epic?
Not new, no. They've gone through about 3 iterations now. So there's the Epic, there was the Epic Flash, was there a Rogue, I think, between. There was a Rogue in between. But there were about kind of 4 iterations.
So I've got to go on eBay really to get another head. And what about the shaft?
Of the same one. Shaft-wise, again, so there's been progressions from the Fujikura Pro series. This is so, like with everything, shafts have a cycle.
Yeah.
Normally it's a longer cycle than heads, but we'd be able to get very close to it.
Yeah, exactly.
But not the exact same
No,
one.
okay. Cool. All right.
We used to find with some of the pros we worked with, one Zimbabwean in particular called Tony Johnson, who the shaft that he loved in his driver they stopped making. It was Pro Light Red, and so he just went and bought up a load of them, so he had backups in case something went, because he knew how much he liked it.
Yeah.
A little bit more drawy.
Oh, God. Got proper hooks.
Yeah, and path got a 3.5 into out, so
Okay.
a little bit more into out on that one. Okay. Yeah, very definitely not going right, that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So
was
that one just faded up, popped it up a
yeah,
little
just
bit
to
more.
say it was club face really rather than path.
That was a nice contact.
That's a better one. So let's take that as a prototype.
Yeah, so I mean that one came out with a bit less spin. Ball speed good, 134, 135. So 148 efficiency, that's good. Nice sort of mid launch there. A little bit on the stronger side spin wise, but actually then as a kind of run out yard, it's a strongish run out, but a nice balance of distance up to the driver. So you're generally looking about 10% 3-wood to driver.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, there's definitely a difference. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's
club-
not miles.
Club speed there, that's probably a little bit less so where the early ones were. Yeah, 92, 93 would probably be where I'd expect to see it.
Right.
That one's a little bit quieter, which is probably where the spin's down a little bit. So where you're at sort of 270, 280 with the driver, so the 245, 240, 250 would be 3-wood length. Right, but good.
No,
ball
hooked
speed.
it again. Hooked
Yeah.
it, felt it.
So more representative speed to driver swing. That looked a square a hit. Okay, yeah, that's a more neutral hit. It can be an interesting one. I think this one, flight-wise, that's nice. It's a nice sort of neutral, mid-launch, mid-spin. You know, if you were to draw it in a little bit more back, you're going to drop a couple of hundred revs of spin. So kind of low to mid threes is where we want the spin. That one's at 90, just under 93 versus 94, 94 and a half. Interesting, possibly on this. It'll be interesting to do a comparison. Possibly this one looks not quite where the irons are. It's where they're just nipping a little bit off it, allows a bit more freedom through. The Nat's proverbial. But seeing how the driver swung and how free that one looks, I'm not going to say it's hard work, but it doesn't look quite as clean through.
Yeah, no,
not quite. Nearly.
I'd say that's more on me than anything. I don't feel like I'm.
Yeah, but you're a golfer. You're always going to blame yourself
today. But I've anyway.
Give it a one or two, and then I'll get an alternative just as a comparison point. That was a stronger move.
Yep.
Yeah, so stronger move there. 95 club speed.
That's more
Dead straight on the shot.
I'd say
248. So it's mid to stronger mid on the flight. It's not a bullet flight, but it's a more forward going ball flight.
No, that's how.
And then that sits in proportion with the drive. So I would say with that, it's if you were to kind of use sort of window weight wise, it would fit within. The driver sits slap bang in the middle.
Yes.
Your irons are right at the top end. Currently, we're bringing them back into middle. Yep. Going a bit lighter on the shaft. That one's sort of upper mid. That one just looks like it requires you to put a slightly stronger move on than the driver. As you can see from that, perfectly within capability, but just looks like it's a bit more of an effort to take time.
What have we got then?
Use that. I'll see if I can use that head. Yeah, should be able to. I'll just from a weighting point of view, rather than pulling this one apart first, I'll use a comparable head.
Sure.
And just to see if we, like with the driver, if we drop a bit of weight, does it give any benefit?
Okay, cool. Really? Excuse me.
That was it. You could hear that. Yeah, and that one there, good contact, 150 efficiency, 11 launch, just under 3,000 spin, 246. So it's,
See, that's okay for me.
say proportionally, it's absolutely bang on in line with driver. Again, worth a bit of an investigation.
Absolutely, that's why we're here.
It's whether it's not going to be much. We're looking kind of 3 or 4 grams on the shaft.
Yeah. If it got up to 230 carry, that'd be nice. But it runs out beautifully though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it's got
the thing.
that's sort of a bit of a you'd pick up a bit of carry with a little more launch and spin. I think a little bit, a few yards, but then it's going to land a bit softer. Whereas that one, it's not low enough spin to be a concern. If you like we saw from.
No, that's interesting you said that because it is a club I can hit it into the wind.
Like that one, for example.
Yeah.
Stayed there, not quite faded, but a little bit of a higher launch and spin. Then you got your softer landing shot. So you can change the trajectory with it. It's better to have it, certainly for UK golf, I think better to have it a little mid to stronger mid.
Driving
because
below,
how many shots are you going to play into a green with it?
But you're also going to be playing through it into the wind as well.
Yeah, and if you're playing in Arizona, we want the higher flight because it's all through the air distance. Whereas Cleve Hill, it's pretty windy, and you want
it can blow
stronger trajectory.
It can blow. Yeah, everywhere.
So let's just make sure that feels similar.
Thank you.
So just a couple of grams lighter on the shaft.
Okay. Give me a couple of goes. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that is not computing. We'll get rid of that one straight away. That's why you can see that just didn't find plane at all. So we're looking for it to naturally drop into line for you, and
that certainly didn't do that. So.
It is weird how you can make such a bad shot with just by swapping the club over. Let's go back to this. See if yeah, then that can't happen with that one.
Yeah. Should find that one.
Yeah, so that's where it is roughly 240, isn't it? Total.
Yeah, repeating there. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's.
I thought that would happen.
I
with
mean,
that.
you're looking at that and going back to it, there is an element similar to the driver. We can investigate things,
Let's not.
but did too good a job last time.
Well, exactly. It's
But-
hats off. I
but
mean,
ultimately
honestly,
that's the
and I've been
thing, you
delighted
can-
with it. So, I mean, that's why you haven't seen me because it's been so good.
But it is a case of if
And I can't. And I know
if
that
your body doesn't change, there's not a lot of need to change clubs unless you're looking for something tangibly different from a flight point of view. Because, at the ripe old age of 42, as long as I look after myself, there's no reason that my specs need to change between now and the age of 50. Now, here is a club. Here is a club. Now,
Oh my God.
there's a very kind gentleman that that has given us these to have a look at, and potentially we may take off. And this is Arthur. I can't remember Arthur's surname, but this is a club dating back to the 1920s. So, as you can see on the face, they were putting etchings on the face then, but this predates the insert persimmon. Otherwise, we'll have to have the TrackMan the other side. Yes, this would test your ball striking. Wow. Yeah. So people like Jeremy and I get all misty-eyed when we see these things, because it's what the game started as, and I've started off playing with wooden woods.
Have you? Yeah, exactly.
Bladed irons.
Nothing like that. God, I'm almost too frightened to hit it. I wouldn't.
But it's fascinating seeing where it all started from. You know, it's this
and the whole
percha.
the whole craft of it as well. Yeah, I mean, could you actually hit a modern ball with that?
You could do. Yeah, you could do. One
Not
the
a top
different-
flight, maybe.
Well, no, you can still hit it with it. I mean, the big difference now with balls is they spin so much less. So the head design has. So when the Pro V launched in, I want to say 2000, 99, 2000. Straight away, players gained a club and a half with irons and 20, 30 yards off the tee because it spun so much less. But they also then needed the club design, had to modernise and change to launch it higher as a result. So you used to get that old flight. I remember seeing first pro tournament I went to was the European Open at Sunningdale in 1992.
Ken
and
Brown,
and Valdo. And I remember watching him off the fifth tee on the old course, and he had a one iron that fizzed out low and then popped up, which you had to launch it low because they spun so much more. Whereas now, you unless you thinned one, you're not going to get that with the modern ball. You have to launch it up to come out forward. So yeah, totally different game. But the
Beautiful,
ball
those things.
change has always been the bit that's transformed equipment. So yeah.
That's interesting. Yes. We all thought those risers were good.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, we all aspired to them. Now they just hurt when you hit them.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I've done that.
But it's fascinating seeing that and the amount of backspin that Norman used to get. I mean, there's a video at St Andrews in one of the Opens on the 14th that I think his ball spun back about 25 feet and it hit the flag with quite a bit of pace. Yeah.
I remember I caddied in the 84 Open, and Fred Couples spun one back at the 18th into the hole, and we were walking down the 17th when he did it. You've never heard it such a loud roar.
Yeah.
That was my first job in golf, caddying for John Garner, and we were playing with Ken Brown. He said, "I played with Fred Couples yesterday. It's as long as I've ever seen anybody hit it. It'd have been 280.
Yeah, which was massive back then.
Which was huge.
Massive.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we did a test with some Bellatas, and the ball on its own with modern driver was something like for a I'd be 290 odd on average, 295 with the modern ball, modern head, was something like 35 yards shorter.
Makes the call.
Somebody saying that he used to stand 30 yards down from the tee to hear the ball tearing through the air with the old Bellata one.
Yes, the sort of
Hiss as it went past.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you never wanted to hit him in a bunker because if you got your bunker shot wrong, you had to bin it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smile.
Very expensive
The
game.
smile.
Proportionate cost versus a Pro V1 was much higher.
So let's better get back to the equipment, I guess. But hybrid-wise,
Oh, I've been delighted with this. I never
this-
could hit a hybrid. I would always
Yeah.
go with a long iron. And suddenly, this thing has been brilliant. I've got two of them. One's much. I haven't brought the other one. It's much more straight faced. This is 19 degrees. It acts like a two
you've
iron.
got the 17 of the other one, yeah.
Ooh, very good. Dear me. Is there anything else you? Is there anything you don't know about?
Well, I kind of the loft down from that has always been the same, so it made me look much more intelligent.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
But,
So
but
it's a
yeah.
manufacturer's thing.
Yeah, and so this one I'm based on 240 odd with the 3-wood, 275.
Yes, if I've got more than 200, then this would be the club.
This one would be looking for it to be
carry 200 and roll a bit. So 220
Okay.
in total. I would have thought.
I'd have thought carry might be a little bit longer.
Maybe.
So what we're looking for at the top end, maybe the 3-wood ending up 240, 245, your driver's carrying to there and then running out. So you're getting kind of total into carry as the sort of transition.
Why does it come off on
Well,
different colours?
What's quite good is when we call the carry in the total, saying 200, maybe a bit more than 200, 220 total, you just hit it straight out the gate, 205 carry, 222 total.
Yes, so that's.
So-
we were both right.
And again, with this club in particular, a lot of the current heads spin a lot less. Again, gone distance, whereas the older Titleist heads were quite spinny for a lot of players. But where you're not a high spinner into the woods, it actually retains a bit of flight and spin, so it actually keeps it.
It's been
What we want it
fantastic,
to be.
this. I mean, it's the only hybrid I've ever hit. 'Cause I remember you saying, yeah, well, I had a hybrid, and you said, well, you can hit most amazing shots with them, either way.
Yeah, they've toned them down a bit.
And I always agree with that, and always
less
kept
volatile
I always
now.
kept a sort of 2 iron in there, and I found that suddenly I could use this.
Yeah.
Made a few changes and found it sort of worked a bit. So, oh dear,
Just a little bit deep on
that
it.
was no, just a poor swing. But how far did that go? 180.
Yeah. That's the one where just hands are just rolled that a little bit. That's just come out a little bit cookie. Good contact. Again, yardage wise, exactly the same as the first one, just turned it over a little
It's
bit.
funny, I didn't feel that. That's weird.
So that was a not going right swing. So that's the one, that little bit of fadey one. That's then taken a little bit less ball speed, but just took a bit of distance off, spun it up a little bit more.
That should be better. Oh no, God.
It's
funny.
Slight draw. I mean, it's probably. I mean, that one's just a little bit less ball speed. I'm interested to see strike point on that. A little out the heel.
Do you
So-
know what I'm also going to? I'm also thinking this does visually set me off down the left, a long way left.
Yeah, one of the updates coming from a software is for us the ability to move that screen alignment.
Yes, do you know,
so
it's a
that
funny
where
thing,
the ball hits
but
the
actually,
screen will be the line the ball comes
I've got
out
to
of.
think of that as my target.
Yeah, or even just slightly up
And
the.
then,
The
of course,
the-
you're thinking.
the caddy's hut. Yeah.
Of course, you're
Yeah.
thinking roll it.
That's a good line. Yeah. So that one again, flight, launch and spin, lovely. There's just a little bit.
I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, a little bit of ball speed lacking, but trajectory really nice.
Oh God. Hacker.
Our problem is you're starting to think now.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. We've
I
managed
mean,
to. Have,
and what that shot does show is that one's the kind of high cutty one. That if you wanted an alternative shot to a low flat long iron, that club gives you the ability to play that shot. Ironically, the first one where you just stand and delivered, and that was the one that came out great flight, good distance because it was just a swing. As you started just, I think.
yeah, no, I have a follow through that sorts that out. It's this one. It's this punch shot. This is my bank manager shot. That can't go right.
Yep.
And you can see why. Obviously. It's
Yeah.
just no-
Yeah. Face doesn't wrap. But actually, some of the swings were almost a little less conscious. Yeah. So that's squarer down the line.
Okay.
That's an interesting one for spin. That's got to be, again, I think contact-wise, yes, just getting a little on the inside of the face. So just lost a bit of ball speed.
Feels good, but I know it's hooked. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of ball speed, I think it's just catching a little out the inside of the face. Because it's just, the efficiency is just down a fraction over what you're capable of. That sounded better contact.
I think I've hooked it again.
Yeah, so slight draw, but it's in that, as you say, where your expectations were. Carry on an okay one carries basically 200. On a good one, it's 205, 206. And then you're kind of somewhere between 210, 220, depending on how well
it's a
it's
220 total, whereas the through it's 240. I've always thought 20-yard spacings from 200 yards. That's kind of been my aim. And the 4-iron gets me to near enough to 200. And after that, it's 20-yard spacings. And for that, I get another wedge at the other end. And I'm always happy with that.
Because I think this club's the one where potentially, dependent on where the 4-iron gets to, that's the one where do we, and I would probably see where the 4-iron gets to first before doing anything with this, because this one's the one we're tuned to find the gap. But does this one need to become slightly stronger on average to
got it.
cater for the fact the 4-iron's going to get a little bit stronger on average? So
it'd still be okay. If the 5-iron
yards.
went 185, that would match the 6.
Yeah.
And if the 4-iron went 197, this would need to go 210.
Does this end up getting a little bit close? And that's really the only question. But now, again, some of the current heads are going to naturally produce a little bit more ball speed across the face. That was hit nicely. 131. Yeah, so you think that one, that's a 145 efficiency. Some of the current heads might just push it up nearer the 150 mark. Lovely trajectory. The ball flight is absolutely perfect.
It is good, yes. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, 133 odd on
I didn't
ball
get
speed. Okay. Yes, that one just popped the spin dead straight. But that's potentially where I think irons before this, but this might just need a little more. Yeah, so that's your 205 carry, 222 again. So a little bit. So when the contact gets a bit necky, and that's where, if anything, the current heads on that bit of the face just retain a bit more performance. So it's only when you get it on the inside of the face does the spin pop and the ball speed drops off. Yeah, once you're up at the 132, 2 odd on ball speed.
No, if I hit it properly,
this one, fucking, what was that? Let me scroll it back down. Yeah, where we're ball speed 133. So that's the one that's hit really solid, really nice trajectory there. That one, a little bit less, a little bit lower spin, a bit more drawn, but still in the same place. So it's just going to be that question of, do we need to make sure that just plays the 5 yards stronger with the irons playing a little bit stronger, which is, bearing in mind this one is probably a 9, 10, so
it's old.
12 years old. Face is fine. It's just
I haven't hit it enough to break it.
It just loses on
For
that inside.
6 years, it just sat in the cupboard. So I've only just really recently got it out.
And that looks worse than it is. So if anyone's got some of those marks on the shaft, this actually, there isn't a dip in the shaft. That's just the top end paint rather than that's a cosmetic rather than the shaft. A lot of the times where they in the bag and the rubber just rubs the top layer of paint off. So most likely at some point replacing that with an updated model will just enhance the ball speed a bit more and easily get you the 205, 210 carry, 220, 220 of it total. Because I wouldn't really want the total to kick on too much. If anything, we just want retain that flight and just jump the carry up about 5 yards or so probably. But I think see where the 4-iron gets to and then take a judgment call on that one, depending on what you want to do.
I expected.
So top end of the bag.
To say that.
Good. Is that one on that one?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. There's a putter cover from Australia. So Barwon Heads, if you've ever been there.
No, I initially wondered.
Anyone been to Barwon Heads in Victoria? Beautiful. Down on the
And when I saw the red, blue, green, yellow, I initially thought it was a Mauritius flag.
Yes, no, I thought that, and when I went there, and I quite like things that don't flag up what they are. And this one is it's an old driver head cover, of course. It's from Royal Canberra. That belonged to my father-in-law. That was his driver, and I now use it for my 3-wood.
His driver
was so small. I've got a 5-wood as well, but I haven't got the 3. But
the 5-wood, I
carry that with me.
5-woods are basically the size of a modern-day hybrid.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, got a putter cover for the hybrid is perfect.
Well, with the magnets, they stay on quite well, don't they?
Yeah. Now I brought a load of wedges, so I actually got these last time from you, and this one, yeah, I bought that. That's a random. I bought that on eBay, and I would be quite interested in. Quite like the CG15s, and I've got I'm using the 52.
Yeah.
The 60 is too long, but we shortened that one.
Yes.
Sorry, is that the right one?
Oh, that one's
That's 52.
52. Yeah.
60 is a bit long, so that needs shortening. But I've got these 3 from the Titleist. This is what this is what I should be using, but I've actually swapped the 52 just recently because I like it, and I've got these others as well.
Got it. What we'll do is we'll move the. I'll just move the TrackMan forward because
one?
if you hit a wedge off that bit of mat,
oh yeah,
come back at you. So let's just slide that forward very slightly. Just realign this. So basically, if you hit a wedge off this bit of mat, then could come back at you with interest.
yes.
So just
Any
check
particular one? Does it matter?
Oh, no, whichever one to start. I'll just check the alignments where we want it. Yep.
56.
Is that 56? Okay. And again, anything, I mean, you mentioned about potentially lofts and things, but have you been comfortable with the setup as is? Are you looking at
Yes.
wanting to change the playability?
No, not really. I've just enjoyed playing with this 52 more, but just recently I've swapped those. But no, they've been fine without me actually loving them.
Yeah.
Do you know? I used to spend hours looking for left-handed wedges. Found 3 that were completely different, all of them, but they were great. And these, they sort of do the job, but I don't.
Yes, what's interesting with the 52 is that's a lighter shaft. So
Okay.
that one is Dartmouth Gold SL, which is actually slightly lighter than the shaft we're looking at in the irons, but that may be possibly
That may be what's influencing it.
is something to do with it.
And I had those CG15s, and I left the sand wedge on a golf course somewhere. Never found it again. So I bought one on eBay. It's not the right lie or anything, but I've had it sitting in a cupboard waiting for. Anyway.
So I think just like a comfortable, not necessarily full swing, but like a kind of a pitching.
I've been getting that.
Just double check. I'm just going to recheck that. Like actually, club path dead square. So actually, so it's straight down.
Funny thing, okay. Is that in line? Is that where you want it?
Yeah. So and again, just dead down the line of the mat there.
What's the red mean? Why is it red?
Just differentiates, the colour differentiates. But normally we get asked that when it goes pink. But it's not a comment on the shot. Literally just to differentiate between the clubs as I change them on the system.
Oh, I see, okay. This is very easy. I would say these are 70-yard shots, something like that.
Very good. 72.7.
Yeah. It should be 71.
Picky.
But
yeah.
And just... Would you ever play, would this be about as
I would never hit a full shot
long
with
a
it.
shot as you'd play
I
with?
tried to hit that one a bit harder, actually.
Yeah.
And so
75, a couple of yards longer, 75, 76?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I would very rarely thrash this club.
Yeah. And would that be
if
the
I had
moment you
a-
go to the 50, would the 52 be more
I'd make
of
the
a
same
fuller
swing
shot club?
with a
or-
52 to go 86 yards,
Yeah.
and a full swing with a 52 that's probably the one I'd use
Mm.
as the first. That's the first club I would make a full swing with.
Yeah.
Lob wedge, you never make a full swing with it.
Yeah.
This one, hardly ever,
Mm.
unless I've got to get high over a bunker and I've got a good lie.
Yeah.
I just won't do it.
It's
But I've got
much more
very
reliable
dialed
shot.
in wedge, distances when I play well.
Yeah.
So what I would do, the same swing would go 86 with that.
So it would be interesting to see with that one, with that lighter shafting, just to see a swing and compare.
Do you
I
wanna-
think this is one of those where,
Do you want to do this one first? Then?
yeah, we'll
Do
do the heavier weight 52
the
first.
Vokey
and then-
first, and then. It's not like I don't like this club. It's like it's just that the other one.
And certainly for a fuller shot, that lighter weight will definitely feel a little bit easier.
Oh, okay.
Or should definitely feel a little easier. Yeah, the thing is, it's not like these are disproportionate to where... Yeah, so path actually 1 degree into out. So it's not like these are disproportionate weight to where the rest of your irons are.
No.
It might be more obvious now we've been doing lighter stuff on the rest of the bag.
That should be 86-ish.
So you may get with wedges off this stuff, because it gets slightly higher up the face, you get a bit less spin. So when you get to wedges off these sort of mats, you tend to get a few yards extra.
Right. No, 90 is fine.
But-
Yeah.
Good little triangle, 30 degrees.
Now, if I went for a full one, I can get it over 100 yards, I think. So that's should be about 100, I thought.
98.
Yeah.
This would be interesting to see after one more of those, is just to switch to the lighter one.
Not such a good
Yeah,
swing.
get 92, very straight. Back to 92. So if I were to give you, I'll do a switch over and thank you. Yeah, it's interesting from a timing point of view. That you can see as you transition, you can see that get back out there. So that allows you to lead the face, leave it online. So when you're going to these, you could see that face shut
yeah.
down through the ball. That one's got 3-yard draw, but just immediately clubs, I say what I call out in front of you. So body turn, arms, club are more in, just look a little bit more in sync.
Okay, that's interesting. So you'd say it's more of a shaft and weight thing than...
I think it's very similar to the irons, yeah. I think that just allows you just to drop the club in naturally into plane. And particularly with wedges, you get kind of two types of players with wedges. You get players that are just, that essentially just rotate and collect. And then you get players like me, I've always kind of pulled on the handle a bit more. So I need more weight with my wedges than my irons for it to effectively to kind of drop down into plane and find the ball. I need that heavier weight. Whereas I think more and more players now, the swing is generally becoming a little bit more rotational.
Oh, yeah.
You're actually using the same weight of shaft into the wedges because there's not that old kind of there and lateral move. So you're not shoving the handle forward and needing the club to drop in. It's, you know, from a technique point of view, we're getting a lot, you know, shallower and body turn and quieter arm. So with this, for you can see how much easier the club just stays with you through the shot.
Oh, really? Okay.
You face the path more, repeating. And in terms of finishing,
That should be 86.
88.8, we'll give you that one.
Okay.
But in terms of looking through the shot, you can see that everything's finishing, going through the ball, finishing together, rather than always having to keep it going to stop it getting away right.
Yes.
And where it's quite a kind of quiet turn and collect with the wedges, rather than a drive down and kind of a drive on top of it,
Yeah.
that's where that lighter weight's going to be a little bit more controllable. Whereas if I give you,
Still a pull, isn't it? Yeah.
if we switch back to that, what will happen is it'll get slightly more dropped in behind you on the way down. You then got to fetch the face through to collect it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't want that.
So there's a little bit more of a flash of the hands through the ball. So straight, but you've got to work the head a little bit more to time it. So it's going to be less exaggerated in terms of any of the miss than the longer bit of the bag, but it actually just means not being able to just leave the face on line. You've got to manipulate it a touch more. So you get, it's marginal, but a little more on your left hip and a little bit more, you've controlled it always, a little bit more roll of the hands, whereas that's just drop into it, collect it.
Interesting.
Quiet hands through.
Okay.
Yeah, it's noticeably more, as I say, noticeably more for me. I mean, that one has gone right, but it's noticeably more for me watching the transition where the club's, as I say, it's out in front. And from out in front, you can control the face.
Yes.
Once it gets behind, it's then a salvage job. So,
interesting. Okay. I'm not really feeling that at all.
It's so what happens is, I'm not going to even try and do a visual left-handed because it'll be very inelegant. But
No, don't. Do it right. Yeah.
Once you drop down, if that club drops into here, then there's a little bit more of that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, you don't want it behind you with the...
So with the wedges, where you're, again, very quiet arms, and you rotate, we want the club to naturally get out there, because then everything's staying on line just through turning through.
Yeah.
Once it gets into there, then...
Yeah, no, I don't want that. I don't want to be into out.
Not kind of vast amounts, and your hands are good enough to make it work, but I'd rather you were controlling the face with your hands rather than saving it with them, and that's just where that little bit of a lighter weight comes into it. It's just a squarer hit. It's just a slightly different plane through the ball.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that you're likely to be able to feel like you can make that club do a little bit more, rather than maybe having to play a particular shot type.
What was the path on that one?
One out to in.
Out to in?
One out to in on that one, yeah.
That's interesting.
That's the thing with wedges, is if you can get it out in front, then you can turn right, leave the face there, and play that little kind of holdy, drifty one.
Interesting, because that's not a hook then. So I played a little
slight
through.
pull draw. I mean, that one, the face still turned in on that one.
Yes, exactly, but it's not the. It's not what I.
It's not a path going left and face going right.
It's not that.
No.
No. Interesting.
So what that weight allows you to do is to turn across it and leave the face open. So that one's 2 degrees out to in. Face is just closed in 3 degrees. So it's more of a slight pull draw.
Right. So it's pull. Yeah.
And that'll be a little higher and shorter, a little more to the left. So path 0.6 into out, face 2 degrees closed.
It should be 74, but I reckon it was 65, something like that.
Right, sort of drew a little 78.
Oh, 78? Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
felt like I missed it.
So I think that's where it's just going to feel like you can just collect the ball.
It's interesting out my cross with that, though, not into out. I was thinking they're going right with the half shots. That must be into out, but it's not. It's out to in. It's out to in with the draw.
With the heavier ones, it could start to send it that way, because you're going to have to start it left a little bit more. You've got to then work it across and hold it open a little bit more. So much like the main body of the irons, taking a little edge out the wedge shafts just means not having to pull on the handle, not having to change. So if you pull on the handle and shove the handle forward, you're changing the centre of the stroke forward, and then it's a quick catch up and a whip. So on the heavier ones, you might well get that one that starts left and turns over, because it's coming in from around a little bit more. Whereas with the lighter one, you can get it out there a bit more and actually get the path working, well, for you, working right.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then if the hands... Difficulty is you might hit the odd pull with them because you're used to having to play catch up with the rest of the set.
Exactly. It's a release pattern, isn't it?
It's one of those, as that changes up through going a bit lighter with the irons and allows you to leave the face on line. The same happens with the wedges, and then you lose the right one. It's just all those compensations will kick in through the set pretty naturally, because every iron shot you're hitting, you're practicing that collect. But noticeably different on that, a bit getting back out in front of you a little bit more, which is a much better position for wedge.
Do you like this
wedge
one
shots.
better?
Much better.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll put one together, bringing the shaft in line with the irons we're looking at as well.
All right.
Left-hand wedges are just next door. I'll just grab the 56. Vokey 56 would be great. Yeah, the left-handed is just the other side of the wall. So, yeah, 0.9, 0.6 dead square.
39. It was supposed to go 38. So
Well,
I can do this.
yeah.
I've got this. I've got
I
this.
think we can use that. It's fine.
Any other Glide?
Yeah, this is the Glide Pro. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that the cleave and sole shapes, the ones you've got, have always been generally a little bit more. The bounce is quite late on them, so it actually almost
Yeah.
there's quite a kind of
Yeah.
a back edge.
Back
goes
edge
up
bounce,
to the
yes.
back edge, so kind of like a exaggerated S grind on a current Vokey. So that actually it promotes getting the hands ahead a little bit, unless I've overlooked a left-hand head over there. So you can promote certain delivery patterns with a particular grind shape. You can stop the head kind of catching and kicking by getting a particular grind shape. So you can using grind to facilitate how you deliver it.
Okay.
Unless there was some being retooled, the lefties, it might be.
Can you have a look at this one then? Because this is a John Letters.
Yes, I'll get the weighting on that. I'll just have a little. Yes, that one's actually a slightly shallower back edge.
Yeah, that was
A little bit more trail.
that was you moved that up actually from 50 to 58 degrees, I think. And I didn't have a 58, and I was thinking of trying one, so you moved it. But let's see what this does. What would you expect with this one?
With that sort of grind shape, I mean, the shaft is still the heavier weight.
Okay. So
That sole shape will, you can kind of hear it in the strike, will facilitate a little bit more of a skid through, so a little bit of a higher flight. So actually some of that right-hand section could be the back of the head catching and actually kind of kicking the head forward and closed. Okay. So if you've got a bit too much bounce, it can often just shut the face on you.
So these should be about, sure, I don't really have a distance for this. Be
66,
about 60, I'd thought.
Yeah, 66, that one.
Okay.
Just see.
I should be using this one, maybe.
Well, with that one, so balance is in sync. It's just, so the grind will affect it a little bit. If you've got too heavy a back edge, then that can kind of catch and actually shoot the head forwards and over. Whereas that one being a shallower sole profile actually allows the club to kind of scoot through.
Yeah, you can feel it interacting differently.
Whereas
with that, actually.
heavier back edge, it literally catches and shoves it forward. So
Yeah.
I'll put a similar.
So what have we got here? Tailor-made.
Just so as not to get the back edge too heavy. And the thing is, with where you've got the Vokeys there, you're bound to pick up the wrong one. 56. So 56 has got the M on it, but it's still got quite a bit of back edge. So in terms of what I'm looking at there, if that shows up, there's still quite a high back edge. So the actual amount of bounce is still quite heavy. So you can always take. You can take bounce off. Better have too much than too little. So let's just see where. So that's the. This will be that little bit shorter length as well. See from a timing point of view. How this swings. Yeah.
That was a better one. No, it wasn't.
Let's just change that balance up a little bit. I'll give you just a little bit more feel for the head. Just taking that head weight up a little bit more. Ah, that's better.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. See that,
Interesting.
able to kind of drop in and leave it
Yeah.
online.
70? 70
Yep,
yards?
73. Yep. Yeah, just that little bit more head weight, and you can again you can use the head weight to manage the club face and the strike and the timing a little bit more. It's a slightly stronger swing, but a very, very consistent launch and spin, if I'm seeing that right. Yeah, so spin rate's only 120 revs variable.
That's a good one.
That sounded
80 yards maybe, but oh God. I'm expecting it to go.
80 yards, 0.2 of a yard off. Shocking. But again, very consistent, a little bit more speed, I think. Is that a little bit more speed? Well, 0.2 of a mile now. I've got a little bit more spin on the previous shot. Yeah, it's a very, very repeating pattern of flight, which ultimately for wedges,
That's what we want,
That's
isn't it?
what we
Yeah.
want. We want it to allow the delivery to stay very, very consistent, so you're seeing the same shot each time, and the ball's reacting the same when it lands each time. So
Ah, right.
you
need to go
spin,
there.
those shots are all down the same shot line. Maybe a little bit shorter, possibly. Yeah. A little bit shorter there. What'll be interesting to see, I'm just going to get something just to show the strike point on the sole. So you can see if the board is, that live board's just in one of the other bays. So I just want to look at that, look at the strike point on the sole here and look at kind of which bit of the front to back, which bit you're using. Because I think what we're going to see, I never pick up the right one.
Well, there's so many to choose from.
So a lot have. I think we're going to see quite a heavy mark. Thank you on the
Live boards from
back
other
edge.
manufacturers are also available.
So we're looking to see. I don't want for you. I don't want too heavy a mark on the back of the club head, because that's then going to kick and knock it forwards. And you're not particularly steep with the wedges, so you tend to kind of pinch it at the bottom of the arc rather than drive down and onto it.
That's true.
And so
Yes.
that's where a heavier bounce for you, it literally back edge catches, kicks it forward, shuts the face down. And it almost will have that almost a jarry kind of contact.
Okay. That won't close the face, though. That's not what's happening there, is it? That's just the release.
It will close it down a little bit as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it will close it a little bit as it kicks. Effectively, the back edge is stopping, and the face. The only way it can go is to close in. So it's a bit like when the hosel catches in
it's
rough.
not purely delofting, it's turning over.
No,
as
because
well.
it'll rotate around the
Okay.
handle as well.
Okay, yep, okay.
It'd be good if this could. This laid plans. Get that to stick.
It's quite weird having been there last week.
I bet it was not quite as green as that. So,
No. It was great, though. It's amazing how wide it is, and yet you still feel I could kill somebody here.
oh yeah, I remember standing on the first tee, and you see the ditch kick in and go,
Yeah.
well, I could hit it in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a much more comfortable position
And then,
to be
then
stood
you hit a
watching
great shot,
from
and you
behind.
go, what was I worried about? I was awake half the night thinking about this.
Yeah. It's because it's wide, it's worrying. Yeah. After then they did the on the Monday of the Open where they had the short tournament.
Oh,
where
yes.
it was into wind, they're all hitting drivers. I was thinking, oh goodness, that's quite narrow.
And it was
with a
narrow
driver.
too with that grandstand.
Standing on the right, yeah. Shows the vulnerability of a golfer's brain. Okay, so, yeah, so I'll bring this forward to camera as well. So that one's, there's the high point on the sole. So I'll show you and I'll take it forward. So it's just sort of that bit there. So the strike point is in the centre of the kind of relative middle of the sole. So onto here, that part I've just put a little line on is the high point. We're getting the strike moving forwards a little bit. So we want the middle third to take, we want a relatively kind of mid to wide mark on there, which shows you're using the body of the sole.
So that's narrow.
So what's key for you is that we still need a certain amount in that middle part, but I don't want a heavy, hard back edge. We need it rounded to then let the club, once it's taken the strike, to work under. Whereas if you're someone who drives down onto it, you can use a later bounce. You can have a harder back edge because it's still on the way down. So it still needs to cushion a bit. Whereas for you, you're working it more that way. So it's taking the strike and trying to slide under. So the worst thing we can do is have a heavy, hard back edge. Because you've then got to put your hands even further forward to get contact. And again, that rolls it.
So it's close to what it is, isn't it?
Where that one is sort of graduated off, for if you use that on the middle wedge, gives you plenty of bounce to work with. But we'd want something that little bit shallow, hence the, what was that?
John Letter's one.
John Letter.
It's the filthy one.
I'll use this as a counterpoint to it. But so what you can, I'll show you and then I'll show the cameras, but what you can see there is that's a really heavy back edge.
Oh, yeah.
Really sits up, and that's much shallower.
Yep,
So
got it.
if I get the angle right here, you'll see how high that back edge sits and how that one's much, much shallower. So what we're saying for Jeremy is that the Cleveland with the very strong back edge, that's great for somebody who drives down on top and takes Parnevik style divots. Because the back edge is trying to stop it digging, whereas for you, you're kind of collecting it and shallowing out at the ball. So the last thing you want is that back edge getting in the way and literally bouncing.
No, understood.
Which is why
that one's better.
And it's graduated off, is a much better sole shape. So, and the fact
what
that
about
it's
this
also,
one then? This one here. That's quite heavy on the back. Oh, it's massive on the back.
Yeah, I mean the K grinds are pretty wide. It's got a lot of width. So,
But it's back.
and we've taken a bit of that off, but it's still. So what we've done with that K grind is just ground that back edge a little bit, but it's still got quite a lot of. So bounce is a mixture of width and angle. So on a lot of the turfs in the US, the overseeded ones that explode on contact, you need lots to stop it digging. Here, where it's a much finer grass, firmer root structure, the problem with that back edge is, again, for you, is that as you're coming in, the wider it is, the more it sits down, more it sits below the leading edge.
Yeah.
So you'd have to grind quite a lot off. For you, it'd be something much more like, for example, an M grind, and take the peak, take the ridge off. A bit of width is never bad if you get a bit of damp conditions. You want a bit of something to protect you, but we don't want as heavy a back edge. So the K is really designed around maximum forgiveness out of bunkers and soft turf. Very, very popular in the States as a result. Okay. But where we get much tighter turf, not a lot of sand in bunkers.
Yeah, no, I've never really enjoyed having a load of bounce on it.
Yeah. But again, comparing it back to...
Well, this Cleveland doesn't. This one doesn't have much.
No, the lower lots always have a little bit less. I mean, it's still got a reasonable bit, but again, if you can compare those two back, you've still got that shallower back edge on the letters one. So that's why that's a particularly comfortable sole shape, and it's really a case of getting. It's got a bit of grind on the heel, bit of softening on the back edge, so it's allowing you to work the face through. So we'd want on the middle one just slightly more, so a kind of fairly standard. If you take a Vokey, a fairly standard sort of S grind. The only thing you might find yourself doing is just taking, always the wrong one. It's just making sure there isn't a peak, making sure it's smooth. So you can, depending on what wedge, the sort of shapes we're looking at, 90% of them will do these sort of base sole shapes but we might just need to take an edge off them based on they're generally designed for US turfs rather than UK turfs.
Okay, so you couldn't modify these, or there's too much to do?
And you
There's too
could
much to
do. I mean, this one you just take the 56. You take that peak off.
Yeah.
The only problem with the 58 is there's an awful lot of grinding required. So you could get it there. There's quite a lot that needs doing on that back edge. So you're going to take quite a lot of weight off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course.
And you can find you can find little kind of imperfections in there. There have been some models where some brands have had little cavities in there to try and save a bit of weight, where they're going thicker top line, moving CGs. You can find things you're not expecting if you grind them too heavily.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's certainly potentially something where winter-wise, something to play around with you could do, but we say we might find something that we don't really want to with it.
Yeah, but if it's going to improve it, then...
But it will certainly. I mean, even just even just blending that in and taking that peak off, it needs a little bit on the back edge, but it's still going to improve it quite a lot.
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
So, as a short term, certainly to that, and then, there's going to come a point, these are getting, from a lifetime point of view, wedges are the one thing that, once those either kind of little grooves between the grooves or TaylorMade have got little, actually kind of, mine's gone completely blank, rather than an indent in, they've got a little kind of peak out, very small in between the grooves to get the grip. Once they wear off, then it's those bits that really get you the grip on soft shots, because they're biting into the surface of the ball. Once they wear down, like these ones, the little grooves between the grooves are starting to fade off, just starting to get a little bit of rounding on the top edge of the groove.
Saying. That's good
So
to
it's
see, this is funny, because this Cleveland one hasn't really got that quite so much. Is it a different...
Still got the. I mean, they didn't have as much of the little grooves between the grooves, so there was less to wear off with those.
Okay.
But I mean, is that on the 50?
Yes, 52.
Yeah, 52, because it's not being played in bunker, you don't get quite as much abrasion on the surface, so it's never going to wear quite as much as the ones you play your bunker shots with.
Yeah, so you can see it actually.
So
Yes, you're right.
that 52 should still
So
be
in that light, where you can
pretty
see
good.
it, that wear is no good. That's not...
Yeah, fuller shots you're fine. It's once the club speed drops, you need the face to be biting at the ball. So that's why someone like Harrington changes wedges every 2 to 3 weeks. But for someone who's got to pay for them, you generally find a good couple of years. Yeah. If you're a regular player, a couple of years. Yeah. No, I mean, annually, if you play pretty much full time. But 2 to 3 years, just keeping the grooves fresh.
Interesting.
But I think similar to the irons, just bring that shaft weight down a little bit. I mean, with these ones as sort of an interim, probably because there's limited life on the faces. When you refresh the faces, then whole club. Yeah. Certainly over wintertime, a little bit of a grind on the 58 and the 56, 54, to just get that peak down a little bit and get them a little bit more user-friendly for you, rather than having such a hard kind of buffer on that back edge. You just blend those in.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a good idea.
And that's a good short-term thing, but ultimately they'll need...
And then we'll replace them
very soon. And when we do that, then we can get the shafts in line.
Okay.
But that should just mean strike consistency, divot depth consistency, flight consistency, just tightens up that little bit more. And then you're not going to get that back edge kick and roll over. Yeah. So it should be easy to leave the face online. And so certainly off the tighter lies this time of year, being able to kind of nip one and pop one up a little bit, rather than having to drive it in flat, because the only way to get the leading edge down and tight is to get that shaft lean forward and trap it. So
it's interesting, because I've never loved them.
Mm.
And I did have quite a boxy previously.
Yeah.
Just almost no bounce on any of the clubs.
Yeah, and again,
when I had my best.
You're shallow into it, so...
When I had my best wedges, they had virtually no big round bounce at all.
No, and it's one of those...
And everybody told me, I had to be shallower. Right.
So, well, you have low bounce because you are shallow. So I've got to have the kind of bounce you've got, because I tend... if I get an upslope in winter, the leading edge goes in, I fat it. Okay. Unless I really focus on not putting the handle forward, makes very quiet arms and turn through to shallow a little bit and to not get the handle ahead too much. Yeah. Someone like Mickelson have a lot more bounce than Jason Day has very dead arm chipping, so they're going to need totally different sole profiles to complement the way they deliver the head. So over the last 5-10 years, 5 years in particular, bounce is your friend.
well, yes, if you play soft conditions and
It's a very
and have a
American,
bit of
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
hands
yeah.
forward, and you know, this whole principle of using the bounce, using the bounce. Well, if the bounce is in the right place, you can, because it interacts with the turf the right way. But if you've got too much bounce, if you use the bounce, you then literally thin it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's
Yep. I've never liked the idea that that bit's just, the club leading edge was higher and above the ground.
no, and I say
Never liked that
for
at all.
my technique, I need a bit of that.
Yeah,
For your
yeah.
technique, you just don't.
Yeah.
So hence the shallower sole profiles just
Which
suit
one,
your
which
delivery.
one's this?
That one's the
TaylorMade?
Ping Glide Pro.
Okay, so we didn't try that.
Well, that one, actually, head weight, I just wanted to bring the head weight out a bit more than this one, so lighter head. But that, again, has got very heavy back edge.
Yeah.
But a slightly narrower
Can you
sole.
show me one that doesn't have that?
So I will get one from... Actually, that TaylorMade's better because it's a softer back edge. So you've got a bit of bounce there, but then it softens off rather than just a ridge on the back edge.
Oh, yeah.
And they all do different kind of sole profiles. I'll grab 2 wedges from over here just to demonstrate it better. But if I were to
see what
get,
it looks like.
So let's go to, you've got something like an F grind Vokey, and I'll get a low bounce. Let's get that one. So I'll bring it round so the cameras can see it as well.
Of course, we're being filmed.
So you've got something like that F grind where it's full of F are full,
Oh,
all
yeah.
the bounce, the peak is right on the back edge. So any kind of delivery where it's underneath, then that's just taking all the brunt of the contact. Whereas, in comparing that to this one, which sits that bit shallower, it's shallow and graduated off. So for someone who delivers it a little shallower, that way you're taking the strike, and then it can still work under. Whereas that one takes the strike on that back edge and kicks it. So that suits someone who drives
That's
down
a
onto
downer,
it.
yeah.
That one suits someone who's shallower. So and that's really where you can use width to give yourself a little bit more sole of the club to interact with the turf. But ultimately, if you've got too much or too little back edge, then you're either going to too little back edge and the leading
So
edge
this
is
would
gonna
be the
catch.
one that you would say for me.
No, that would be the
The other-
one
the
not
opposite
for you.
one. Go on.
That kind of shallower and
Oh, I see what you mean.
graduated
Yeah.
allows it just to scoot through.
Yeah, so it's not up
So
at the
you
back.
don't want it
Yeah.
like the old L grind Vokeys were sharp as anything. They were you could shave with them, front edge. So a little bit of camber gives you something to play with, but for someone who's 1 or 2 degrees down, I'm going to be 6 or 7 degrees down with a wedge. So,
Oh, really? Wow.
So we need quite different sole shapes to.
And what do the top players do?
Again, depends on
So the variation.
depends on where they're
So
playing.
it's not right.
So they'll use, when they come over for the Open, they'll use lower bounce. They might still keep some width to the sole in case, for bunker shots, but
Yeah.
they're going to tighten up that turf, where that grind profile. Whereas you go and play in, say Arizona's, there's no real root structure. They overseed every year. The grass sits up a little bit more, so there's always a cushion underneath it. The last thing you want is a shallow wedge that the leading edge is just going to dig straight in. So they'll change normally their highest bounce wedge to suit the course, turf conditions. Sometimes just the type of shots they might be playing there. So again, that's got a very, very heavy back edge.
Okay. That's
Very
no good either. Okay.
And so again, for you, the current, if you take those cleavers, the current ones have quite a lot of camber to them.
Yeah.
So they play low bounce because the back edge gets out of the way. But for you, there's still got the front half where it cambers up, where the leading edge is going to kick. So it becomes a little bit more.
That's what you would give me.
Yeah, that kind of stress. So you can create that. If someone likes, for example, the Vokey wedges, you can take an M grind and where there's a little peak on the
Yeah,
sole,
okay.
you can just blend that in.
Get
You
rid
can
of it,
smooth
yeah.
that off because you've got the benefit of the heel grind and the back edge relief, and you're just taking the peak off, which is designed more for US turfs. But it keeps a bit of width to the sole, which for winter here, you don't want just a really narrow sole that's got no bounce on it because then you have to catch it so
You have to
perfect.
hit the ball first, Simon.
That could be a problem. that's your 80-yard flop shot. So and so it's just you're using those sole shapes and looking.
Right,
at someone's
interesting. So
technique.
the wedges,
So the
I'm
wedges,
using,
the
wedges I'm using
heads.
aren't quite right.
There's and the heads is quite a. I think particularly on the delicate shots, I think you could find a much neater, much more playable sole shape by taking that back edge down.
But the consistent bits, your Cleveland ones, the Vokeys that you've got, have a fairly heavy back edge. And the one that you said, I've really enjoyed using this, the letters,
Didn't.
is much more along the sole shape that we'd go with.
Okay.
But interim, bit of a grind on the 50, on the higher two lofts on the 56, which is a little bit less than the 58, just to bring them down and make them a bit more playable, and then refresh those up, but then go the slightly lighter shaft in to complement the iron set.
Okay. Okay.
I believe that's about that.
Wow, we have no more clubs to discuss. That's been a
So
really
there's
interesting
there's
couple
some
of
good
hours.
kind of
Fantastic.
Good,
Thank you.
definitely some good adjustments, particularly say into the irons, which was the bit that, as you quite rightly said, well, this I think we're likely to do more with this bit.
Yes. Yes, I didn't realise the wedges were that. I didn't love them, but
Well, you'd still be able to make them work, but there'll be certain shots that, once you get that sole shape changed, where you go, oh my god, I can play that shot now, and that's really easy, rather than having to. With
Really
that sole
work,
shape, you've got to really get the angle in and then work it under exactly right. You'll be able to play them, but you've got to be absolutely on the money. And up there, with a, if you're laid up on the first and you've got a pin tight to the ditch and you had to play a little kind of soft poppy shot over it, then you
yes.
wouldn't really have a wedge you could do it with off tight hard pan.
did play one absolutely lovely
Other than
35
you got that
yarder.
letters in your
No, I did play one lovely 35 yarder into the wind with the 58, 59, whatever it is. I can do it. It's interesting that it's not helping me, and that's interesting also that in the old days when I had these wedges where there was hardly any bounce, and there were three of them.
Just
boxy, like really boxy.
Yeah, just very kind of sharp, flat.
Yeah, there's one McGregor Muirfield.
Right, yeah.
It was just a complete square.
Yeah.
Couldn't play a bunker shot with it, so I had another one. They were both 56. This was in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Well, late mid 90s. Carried two sandwiches, one for bunkers, one for chipping and pitching.
Yeah, and the chipping and pitching would have been like razor-like on the front edge.
It
dead
was,
flat
and
on
then
the sole.
dead flat, absolute box.
And the other one would have been the same, but just with a bit more.
No, a bit more hugely rounded ram kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
If
Yeah,
you
one of
remember.
the tall grinds.
Yeah, something like that.
FX.
Yeah, well, no, I think it was earlier than that. But anyway, it was.
But yeah, they had that camber to the sole. So
Yeah.
as you say, and that's where
Yeah.
you can do that now. Just with you'd have the slightly more cambered one for your middle wedge because you can afford that to have a bit more bounce, or the kind of the one with a little bit more kind of sole profile, but a slightly shallower one, keeping a bit of width, keep the back edge relief. That's the higher loft one because that's the one you're going to be opening up, and you still need to slide it through. And that way you can either open the middle wedge, give yourself lots of bounce and protection, soft sand or wet turf, or you can close down the higher loft and give yourself zero bounce. And so you've got complete opposites of profile that you can play around.
Flexibility, if you understand it.
So if you're a tour pro who gets them for free, then you have 2 or 3 sets of wedges that you just, or particularly lob wedge, where they would tune that to the course conditions that they're playing.
Interesting.
Whereas we have to pay for them, so it's slightly less cost efficient.
Yes. And
So yeah,
mate, that's been awesome. Thank you so much.
pleasure.
You've been
Pleasure.
great. You've been great.
Well, I
Incredible.
haven't had to make any swings, so that's
Well,
that's slightly easier.
yeah, no, I'm not sure I brought my best, but anyway. It's been really
Sometimes actually it's
fascinating.
better that way because you can sort of see where if there are any foibles or anything going on the swing, you can see where it's breaking down, and actually we can that little bit of a catapult over, we can see where that's likely to come from as well. So the good side is that what you're experiencing and what that little bit of a change in the weighting you do is to help to mitigate, or at least at the very least make it a consistent shape rather than that last minute kind of catapult through. So yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's I mean, yes, I understand all of that type of stuff. I'm open here, so it's always going to be that. It's always going to be that.
Yeah.
And that is a devil. I don't know if you've ever tried to change that and get your wrist moving that way.
I can't do that.
It's
I
like
can't do.
bloody
Or do the wrong, or just. It literally feels like I'm about to snap the tendon.
Yeah,
in the back
they're all
of my
talking about doing that at the start of the downswing. It's like, great, that's hard work.
wrist. Yeah, and you've got to be quite flexible to do it. And it also needs a massive amount of body rotation as well, because if you strengthen the face,
Yes, you don't
It
want to
shuts it
flip.
as
No, you
well,
don't want to
so,
be doing the flip then as well.
It is interesting how there are a few players, Rahm, Morikawa, Dustin,
Loads of them.
who at the moment
are able to do that. Chauffeur, a few go that way, but I don't know many amateurs who actually can flex their wrist that way and keep control of the face. So it almost feels like there's just a kind of a not necessarily representative amount of players at the top of the game doing that at the moment.
There's loads of them. I mean,
But there are a lot.
yeah, and they're all doing really well too. So,
Yeah.
interesting.
Maybe they know more than I do.
They might not know more. I don't think they know more.
Definitely better players. Definitely better.
You don't want a player that knows a lot.
No, brain gets in the way. Definitely avoid that. Avoid conscious thought at all costs.
All right. Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Great to be here again.
Great stuff. Lovely.